extraordinary last lap trophy dashes in history, Doc Bundy remembers.
You know, this last lap, we wondered and wondered, would I be able to go slow enough to make this thing last and finish under the yellow? But obviously, IMSA had other plans. They wanted to finish under the green. So as I come onto the straightaway, I was prepared for it. I nailed it as quick as I could.
Come on, the green flag is out. Here we go. Down to the line, Doc Bundy leads Derek Bell and Darren Brasfield.
Possibly one lap for the money. This may be the last lap. Breaking down in the corner.
Derek Bell goes low, trying to force Doc Bundy wide. Brasfield tries to go wider, and it won't work. And Doc Bundy gets sideways.
Come on, Derek.
Brasfield is by Bell.
Okay, now we've got... No, wide again. Oh, Derek.
And Brasfield gets sideways. There's the...
We go through the next set of turns, and I can open a little gap, but you notice that I slow up a lot for the corners. And again, I'm trying to get my front tires up to temperature. I don't care about the rears. They only have to last one lap. And then we come into this next to last turn. I turn into for the corner a conservative way, and Derek slips up and bumps me out. Well, I figure the race is all over because there goes the Jaguar by. But I didn't give up because Brian didn't take the turn away, so I slipped back up the inside. But now I have all four tires locked up, and I can't make the corner. And Brian turns in, bumps me, but I still can't make the corner. Then I got help from Darren. Darren bumps me up the tail, knocks me around. I just dump the clutch and take off.
And Doc Bundy will take one of the most amazing finishes in IMSA history. Today, all the key players are back, ready to run for the checkers in Palm Beach. Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard in West Palm Beach, Florida. Normally the entrance to the spring training home of the Atlanta Braves and the Montreal Expos. But today, the site of the checkered flag in the second running of the Camel GT Grand Prix of Palm Beach. Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, welcoming you to West Palm Beach and wishing a happy Father's Day to all my fellow dads out there. Welcome back to West Palm Beach. If you happen to be with us for the exciting GTO two-hour battle here on the streets of West Palm, a race that contained my fellow commentator, Lynn St. James. First of all, Lynn, congratulations on your 7th place finish yesterday.
Thank you very much, Bob. I wished I'd been better, but it was the best we could get today.
Indeed. Last year's GTP race, that's going to be a tough act to follow with that tremendous last lap finishing dash.
That's right. I think that it probably produced the most exciting finish in the entire IMSA Camel GT circuit. And this type of track produces that kind of racing, so we may have the same thing this year.
It's another warm, sunny day here in West Palm, temperature in the 90s. The cars are going to be very hot. But in addition to the heat, the drivers have got another angle that they're going to have to deal with here in West Palm.
That's right, and that's the racetrack itself. Yesterday when I raced in the Florida Pneumatic GTO race, you know, the track really broke up badly. We had a lot of marbles out there, and through turns 5 to turns 8, all we had was one little path to follow. They were able to make some repairs. They put down some concrete patches. I understand the track's held up pretty good today, but, you know, 3 hours running out there with those GTP cars, we could have a problem. So I think it's gonna produce some conservative, possibly, racing if it does start to break up again, but we won't know until the race.
Well, deep in the heat of battle will be our pit reporters, Gary Lee and Derek Daly, IndyCar star from Ireland. We sent Derek out to find out more about the track conditions.
One of the problems with street racing is these streets are not made to accept the rigors of race car driving. At the Dallas Grand Prix in 1983, the Formula One cars literally sucked the surface off the ground, destroyed the racetrack, and it had to be resurfaced overnight. Well, here at West Palm Beach, the same thing has happened. The GTO cars ran yesterday. They literally destroyed the track, and it's had to be resurfaced overnight. Now, yesterday, it destroyed a very good race for Willie T. Ribbs. He came through turn 7, got a little bit offline, onto the broken-up surface, and hit the wall, destroying his race. Last night, the crews came along and resurfaced most of the corners with concrete. Now, they have a quick-set system, but I don't know whether it's going to cure on time. The race will remain to be seen, but very seldom do you resurface the night before and have a good, successful racetrack.
Well, Derek, yesterday when Willie T dropped out, he told me live in our telecast the entire track should be resurfaced. I said, I don't think they can do it. Well, they almost did it. We'll see if it holds up. We're standing now outside row 3, a most unusual paint scheme on this car for Bryce Cobb and for his co-driver, Rob Dyson. The reason why, a practice crash this morning destroyed this rear deck, or as Derek would call it, the engine boot. The problem in finding a spare was their backup car is in New York. This is an older style Porsche 962 with the intercooler mounted in the center, necessitating this scoop. The newer models have those mounted on the side. So, Camel GT defending champion Al Hobart said, I have my backup Lowenbrow Porsche. It has the kind of scoop you need. So, the defending GT champion is making it possible for Cobb and Dyson to race here this weekend.
Thank you, Gary. Well, we said it was hot. There you see the temperature and expected to get warmer. Humidity not too bad. Chance of rain very small. But there is not much cloud cover. It's going to be warm. ESPN coverage of the IMSA Grand Prix of Palm Beach is brought to you by BF Goodrich TA Radials. We make your car perform. By Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer. And by Pontiac, America's road car company. Pontiac, we build excitement. Well, the drivers are all buckled in, the engines are started, and we're about ready to line them up and turn them loose here at West Palm Beach. We'll be back to set the grid in just a moment. Palm Beach, Florida. Bob Varsha, Lynn St. James with you. Gary Lee and Derek Daly will be doing the honors along pit road today as some 20 cars line up for the 3-hour Camel Grand Prix of Long Beach, and here's the way they'll grid. On the pole for the second straight year, undefeated in Palm Beach and maybe unbeatable, Sarel van der Merwe, who will be partnered by Doc Bundy, the team that played such a dramatic role in last year's race. Their car, the menacing black Corvette GTP. Alongside on the front row will be Chip Robinson, who sat on the front row last year in the Jaguar. He'll be partnered by recent Le Mans winner Derek Bell of England. Their car, the Al Holbert Lowenbrow Porsche 962. Inside row 2 will be the Jaguar, 12-cylinder power, Hurley Haywood behind the wheel. Alongside John Morton, they are the team that won Riverside earlier this year. On the outside, along the Jaguar, Bob Wallach, partnering young Darren Brassfield out of California. They'll be driving our in-car camera, the BF Goodrich-sponsored Porsche 962. Inside row 3 will be an Italian and Argentine lineup, Massimo Sigala of Milan, Italy, alongside Oscar Larori of Argentina. Their car, the Torno-sponsored Porsche 962 from Brunn Motorsports of Germany. Outside row 3 will be Rob Dyson out of Poughkeepsie, New York, partnered by young Bryce Cobb. They'll be driving the bright orange and white number 16 Dyson Racing Porsche. On the inside of row 4 will be Jim Downing and John Mafucci, the highest-ranking Camel Lights machine in the race, alongside Steve and Tom Shelton, a brother act from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in a Porsche. On the inside of row 5, Steve Durst and Mike Brockman, alongside Tim McAdam and Chip Meade in a Porsche-powered Fab car. Inside row 6, the man himself, A.J. Foyt, had some trouble qualifying, but we expect to see him move right up. He'll be co-driving with Davy Jones in a Porsche, alongside Steve Phillips and Howard Katz in a Chevy-powered Tiger Racer. On the inside of row 7, Don Bell and Jeff Klein, winners of 5 out of 8 races in the Camel Lights class thus far this year. They'll be alongside Charlie Morgan and Jim Rothbard in an identical Pontiac Fiero. On the inside of row 8 will be Gary Wanzer, Nort Northam, and Peter Uriah in a Mazda-powered Lola, alongside John Higgins and Howard Cherry in the second Porsche Fab car. Inside row 9, Scott Schubert and Linda Ludeman, the only female driver in today's GTP race on a Mazda-powered Tiger Racer. Scott Pruitt and Whitney Gantz alongside in the 7-liter Ford Mustang. Good story behind that car. On the inside of row 10 will be Rick Capone, Steve Cohen, and Ron Cortez in a Chevy-powered March. Bill Jacobson and Lance Jones alongside another Mazda Tiger Camel Lights car. At the very back of the pack, the second Gary Wanzer entry, along with Bruce Dewey and Bill Bean in a Mazda-powered Lola. Now you see as the field makes its way through the first of 2 pace laps, we will have an in-car camera aboard the BF Goodrich car, number 67, Bob Wallach at the keyboard right now. You see the shots will give you this very, very tight 1.6-mile street course, 10 turns, 2 of them 180-degree hairpins. The stretches are not very long for getting up to 5th gear in these big GTP cars. There you see the Palm Beach Lake straightaway, about 2,500 feet long with a tight hairpin at each end. Congress Avenue gives them about 1,200 feet to get up to 5th gears, but in between about 1,300 feet or so of absolutely tight racing, Lynn.
That's right, Bob, and we only shift about 12 times per lap in this particular track, and that's actually, not very many compared to most tracks, but it's still going to produce an opportunity for possible mistakes. And it's also very narrow through those turns, that we saw out there. The squiggly part is very narrow. The rest of it's pretty wide, so we can do most of that passing will be done on the straightaway or under braking.
The cars went out this morning to test those concrete patches that were laid in overnight. Crews worked until 4 o'clock this morning, laying 17 cubic feet of quick-drying concrete. Thus far, the reaction has been very good. The drivers knew they didn't want to deal with the troughs that was created by the GTO machines yesterday. There you see the number 4 7-liter Applicon Ford Mustang GTP in the Jack Rouse stables. The story behind that car is that it was not able to get a qualifying time due to an engine misfire, so it's been placed at the back of the pack, and that's very unusual because they're normally they would put a GTP car at the back of the GTP field. Now, Lynn, I understand that that misfire is not cleared up either.
No, they're still not sure whether the thing is going to run clean, and so they're just going to have to try. You know, just get out there and try, and it'll be Scott Pruitt starting it, and it's going to be a real tough race for him.
And the pace car moves off. Cyril Vandermerve brings the Corvette down in front. The green flag waved by Miami Dolphins quarterback Dan Marino, and on the break, it looks like Cyril Vandermerve with Chip Robinson tight behind in the number 14 Porsche. Give it to Vandermerve as they make the first turn through that 180-degree squeezer. There's a look in car as Bob Wallach drives you around in third position on the racetrack. The two front runners are in front of him, and this is the short backstretch, Lynn, where they might get it up to fifth gear.
No, this backstretch here, they're only going up to third gear. It's going into turn 3. They were just going down Congress. Just watching Bob Wallach's hands, you know, even though they gave him 2 pace laps, those front tires still may not be warm enough there to give him the traction that he wants on the front.
Shows how much I know about driving Porsche 962s. You see how very tight these turns are.
You see the patches there, right? And I was real pleased just to see that when he went over the patch that the car held real well, so that it is indicating not to be a problem.
Incredibly tight racing going on here, and not all the drivers, truth be told, are terribly happy with this race course. Still, street racing is a part of American sports right now, and a crowd of some 65,000 people is expected to be on hand before the day is out to watch these cars go. And look at the lead. Cyril Vandermerve is able to open up early over Chip Robinson in the Porsche. Behind him, Bob Wallach is eyeing Robinson, maybe trying to take second place as they head down. And this is where most of the... Well, we've got a bump. Robinson bumps Bob Wallach. Well, no harm, no foul, maybe. Wallach and Robinson simply switch places, and that, I was going to say, Lynn, is the kind of passing that we expect to see at that turn 1 hairpin all day.
That's where it's going to have to be done, and you can see where here the Corvette's horsepower really is where it's able to pull away because of that extra horsepower.
We've got a replay, and let's see just what it takes. This may not have been a mistake, folks. This is what it takes to pass on this race course as Tim sticks the nose of his Porsche 962 number 14 right under the number 67 of our camera car. Bob Wallach quickly getting it back into shape. He didn't get it spun around as Jack Baldwin did, the pole sitter in yesterday's GTO battle. He wound up looking out his mirrors at the cars coming at him, and that was not a good scene for Jack.
They both got going, but it looks now like the number 14 Lowenbrow car with the Chip driving it has been able to gain back on Cyril, and it looks like it's possible that Bob Wallach is dropping back, which could indicate maybe he did have some damage on that altercation. We won't know, but it seems like he's pulling a good lead.
Along pit road, they're saying that the right front aerodynamic fin on Bob Wallach's number 67 car took a beating in that contretemps, if you will, with Chip Robinson. And so Bob Wallach may be having to deal with a Porsche that is not quite in the shape he'd like it to be in. You see those little winglets on the front. Excuse me, on Chip Robinson's car. It looks like Wallach is in pretty good shape. I think it's the number 14 car that's got the problem. Meanwhile, here comes Bryce Cobb in our hybrid Porsche 962. You see the car with the white wing with the Lowenbrow colors on it. There is the car. In practice this morning, he got into another car. In fact, one of the lights cars landed on the back of his car and tore off the rear wing. Rob Dyson didn't have a spare one in the truck, so Al Holbert said you can use ours. They needed one with a big hood scoop that gave them the air feed to their top-mounted air cooler. That's where the air is cooled down before going into the turbocharger, which compresses it and sends it into the engine, creating greater horsepower in turbocharged cars. Interesting thing is that Lowenbrow sticker is on the back. Since Lowenbrow is not a sponsor of Rob Dyson's car, he considered taking it off. What I hear is that Al Holbert told him those decals cost about $150 a piece. Being a good businessman, Rob Dyson said, I like that Lowenbrow decal just fine on the back of my car. Let's just leave it there. Anyway, you watch as the cars continue to circulate. You're looking at the battle for 4th place on the racetrack between the number 44 Jaguar and Bryce Cobb in number 16 Porsche 962. A good racetrack for that 12-cylinder Jaguar.
That's right. The normally aspirated engines really have a little bit of an advantage here because there's so much turning and it's so tight, particularly coming off of those 2 hairpin turns. You can see, in fact, that's what's set up. I think that problem that they had, you have to come to almost a complete stop, so you need that low-end torque.
You noticed on our graphic that Curly Haywood in that Jaguar is making his 170th career start today, far and away the most in Camel GT history.
It looks like the Applicon car is moving up well through the field. It's already up with the other GTP cars, so it looks like it got by on most of the light cars.
That white Porsche is from Tom and Steve Shelton, brothers from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Oddly enough, they are Ferrari dealers. They had hoped to mount a Ferrari effort in Camel GT prototype racing somewhere down the line. For now, they wanted the best car they could get for the money. Can't find a better one than the Porsche 962. Looking for its 40th victory here at Palm Beach in the 3 full years of its existence in the Camel GT Series. Now here is our lights leader, I believe. That's the Steve Durst, Mike Brockman car. A Pontiac Fiero, and there you see right on his tail the red number 63 of Jim Downing, who started that Mazda-powered Argo racer. This course is also a big equalizer between Jim Downing's style of racing in the Mazda-powered car and his Pontiacs, using a big 4-cylinder engine that allows them much greater speeds on the super speedways. But on a tight course like this, the Downing Mazda car is able to stay close.
I noticed the Applicon car was doing well, and now yet it's dropped way back behind the number 62 Porsche 962. So it would indicate that misfire might be reoccurring, where he has some power and he's able to run well, and then he just doesn't, and he has to drop back. So it's going to be frustrating.
That would be a shame indeed. This was another instance of a normally aspirated car expected to do really well on these tight courses because it doesn't have to deal with the spooling up of the turbochargers. Back to the leaders, Cyril van der Merwe with about a 4-car length advantage or more. That was a lapped car, that white machine you saw behind van der Merwe. Right now, Cyril van der Merwe is opening things up in the Corvette and appears to have things in control, but it's very, very early on in the 3 hours of Palm Beach. We'll be right back. Live at West Palm Beach, working lap 7 in this IMSA Camel Grand Prix of Palm Beach. Bob Barsha and Lynn St. James with you. You're watching your leader, and that is the Corvette of Cyril van der Merwe. There is van der Merwe. Now, this is a replay of the pass we saw moments ago when Bob Wallach takes a hit right there.
Bob was already set up for the turn, and then that hit from the rear made him have to do some very quick correcting. You have to come almost to a complete stop there, and you've got to almost go into an opposite one just to get the car turned around through the turn. And so if you get tapped, you're totally out of it.
Okay, that was in slow motion. We'll show it to you again at real speed, and you'll see just what it looked like to Bob Wallach. I think he gave a little wave to Chip Robinson when he was able to take his hands off the steering wheel. Here we go into the turn, and this is what it felt like for Bob Wallach. Boom! Yeah, a little quick wave there to Chip, saying, "Excuse me, why don't you go on by, take second place?" And that's the way they stand right now. Van der Merwe in front of the number 52 Corvette, second place Chip Robinson, the number 14 Porsche. In third is Bob Wallach, the number 67 Porsche. And in fourth, the number 16 of Bryce Cobb. Now there is the number 3 car. That's the Torno, a European addition to this field from the Brun Motorsports team over in Germany. A very, very powerful European effort. They finished third, I believe it was, at the 24 Hours Daytona earlier this year, and obviously they've got some problems at the terminal. Excuse me, they were second at Daytona. Very highly qualified team. That's Massimo Segala and Oscar Larori handling controls today in that car, and at this point it looks like they're looking up on top of the engine, maybe in the area of the turbocharger, or perhaps that was an air intake. Well, we'll find out. But here is an example of the traffic that we expect to see all day long in the hairpins, as some 20 cars try to pile in these very, very tight turns.
What was surprising there was a whole box of them, but they were all GTP cars. There were not any lights in that pile, so it's going to, it's not just the traffic of passing the light cars, but it becomes a bottleneck at those 2 tight hairpin turns.
More than anything else, Lynn, I guess that is why we expect this to be another very dramatic finish. It's a 1.6-mile track, very tight. Nobody, no matter how much horsepower you got, really has an opportunity to get out there and smoke them. So it's tough to get too far away. Eric Daly is standing by on pit road with a story.
I'm down here in Bob Wallach's pit. Although he is holding on to third place, he does have a very bad misfire. His crew doesn't exactly know what it is. They do suspect some electrical problems. So Bob Wallach still third place, but does have a bad misfire. Let's go down to Gary Lee.
As hot and humid as it is here in southern Florida, it's any port in a storm, and Whitney Gans has found some relief in the shade of another team's refueling rig. Whitney has been the workhorse on the Mustang GTP, the Applecon car, because Scott Pruitt was in Detroit yesterday winning the Trans Am race. So Whitney, it was up to you to practice, and unfortunately you didn't get a chance to qualify. What was the problem with the power plant yesterday, and what seems to be the problem today?
Well, since yesterday morning, the start of practice, we've had some really bizarre misfire. We've changed everything you can change in the car, except for maybe the whole chassis, and it's really too bad because the car could have been very, very quick here. Anytime you try to get on the throttle very hard, like you have to do to go down the straightaway in between the corners, it just cuts out.
So there's still a big question mark hanging over car number 4. They're not sure what the problem is and what to do about it.
Okay, thank you. As you can see, the number 67 Porsche has reassumed second place from Chip Robinson in the number 14 car. So the positions are changing rapidly here, and a lot of problems for our top runners. We now understand from the pits that a fan has broken a housing on the number 3 Torno Porsche, and they are going to retire that car for the day. A big disappointment for Massimo Segala and Oscar Larori.
I'm surprised. I'm sorry, I was surprised that the misfire that's reported on the 67 Bob Wallach, not Porsche 962, because he's running so strong. You know, it doesn't appear to be holding back, falling back, and he's able to stay with the Corvette and running strong. So I hope that misfire was maybe not a correct report.
Regular viewers of our IMSA Camel GT coverage here on ESPN will remember Riverside, California, where misfires plagued virtually all Porsche competitors, and the Jaguar was able to catch a failing Chip Robinson in the late stages of that race, and Early Haywood and John Morton notched the victory there at Riverside. These Porsche engines, they are 3-liter, flat 6-cylinder engines using twin spark plugs, twin ignitions, and that apparently is causing some of the problems for these cars.
We're going into turn 5 right here from the in-car camera, which is where the patching started. In fact, turn 5 had the largest patch. It was about 6 feet by 30 feet. And Bob, just before that, I was noticing how much his hands were turning on the steering wheel, which means that, you know, even though he's getting pretty good traction, you're bouncing around a lot, and it flips the car a lot.
Well, he couldn't have a better chauffeur than Bob Wallach, winner of both street races on the series, or 2 of the street races, I should say. There you see the number 4 car. That's the Ford Mustang GTP, and this could be a problem as well. In the foreground, you saw the number 3 Porsche.
It's probably that misfire, because as he came by down the front straightaway, it was missing real badly, and obviously he had dropped back.
Gary Lee is standing by in the Ford pits.
Every time the car came down the straightaway, the crew members would shake their head because the engine was popping. We indicated earlier there was a large question mark. There still seems to be a large question mark. They raised up the bonnet. They looked at some adjustments down there. They looked at some connections. They wiggled some connections. The bonnet was closed, and now it's open once again. A conversation going on between a crew member and the driver, Sky Pruitt. Whitney, any indication what they're doing now?
I have no idea. We've just been chasing our tails all weekend, and that won't fire. I mean, it's really too bad. This car had tremendous potential on this track.
Well, obviously, if they know what the problem is, they certainly would work hard to rectify it, but there's still that question mark. They don't know.
Okay, thank you, Gary. They resolved that problem by plugging in a computer and reprogramming the ignition on that car. Apparently, not even that will save them at this point. We'll be right back to Palm Beach. Lap 13 of the 3-hour Camel Grand Prix of Palm Beach. Bob Barsha and Lynn St. James with you. Derek Daly and Gary Lee on pit road, and Derek is standing by with a celebrity guest.
One of the interested spectators here at the Grand Prix of Miami, or West Palm Beach, is Dan Marino, the Dolphins quarterback. Dan, what do you think of all the excitement here this weekend?
Well, it's quite exciting. I was able to start the race, and I just can't believe the speed that the cars are going at and coming by. I was up above there when I was starting, and it's incredible, really. And tell you the truth, I can't understand how they can be in those cars. It's so hot out here.
Would you ever have any secret desire, maybe in the back of your mind, to have a go at auto racing sometime?
No, I think I'd rather just watch the race and have a couple of beers, maybe.
Dan Marino just wants to keep those magic hands around the football.
Football indeed. I wonder if Derek thought he was talking to a soccer player. A little big. Oh, well. Dan Marino started the race today, and this man has led it from the start, Cyril van der Merwe. But this man behind him in the 67 white and black VF Goodrich Porsche, there you see the view that Bob Wallach of Strasbourg, France has of the leader Cyril van der Merwe. He is closing down the gap. It was once 4 seconds between first and second. It is now down to less than 2 seconds separating first and second place in the race. And Bob Wallach is really working hard. Keep in mind that he's driving a car that we're not sure is entirely healthy after Chip Robinson kind of muscled his way by to second place. But Bob evidently had a healthy enough race car to take back second. And right now he is trying to run down Cyril van der Merwe. Van der Merwe with a horsepower advantage of maybe 100 ponies or so, making about 750 to 780 horsepower with V6 turbo in that Chevy Corvette. Porsche 962 in the area of 680 horsepower.
You know, another little bit of an advantage that Cyril has in the Corvette is the fact that he's running on Goodyear tires, and the BF Goodrich tires are, of course, a radial tire, and of course, the tire that is still developed from a street tire. So he really, I would say that Bob Wallach should have a little tire disadvantage, even though they've done very well, and yet he's running right with them. So I think that's quite an impressive performance right there.
Well, you see the action from inside the cockpit and from the outside through the benefit of our in-car camera. And you can see just how close they have to come to those walls at such high speeds. Jack Roush with the 14 told me the only way to really set up a car for a street course like this.
I'm sorry, an incredible pass there, which just shows the amount of closing speed. I mean, you can barely see up in the corner of the screen a little flash of color as Bob passed, I think it was a Camel Light car. It was that quick. And
yes,
he is right closing on Cyril. I mean, he is incredibly close right now. Of course, traffic is going to dictate a lot of that. You know, Cyril can get behind a slower car, and it's going to give Bob an opportunity to be right under. But I sense right now that Bob is setting himself up for a pass. I really do. I feel that he's closing in, and the car is probably running well, even though he had that damage. And sometimes when you have an incident that happens really early, it gives you this extra sense of energy that you really are going for it. And now Cyril's pulling away from him, which again is the horsepower.
That's the front straightaway. That's where horsepower is.
But
the
yet
advantage
under braking, he seems to have an advantage there. It seems to be that under braking, in fact, he may have it. He may have it. No, because he's on the outside there, but he is pressing. I mean, he is ready to pass that.
Bob Wallach and Cyril van der Merwe going mano-a-mano here in the early stages of this 3-hour race. Bob Wallach obviously wants first place, and he wants it now.
You know, many drivers will just see the mirrors. He's going for an inside pass there. It's, you know, the concrete patch he knew was there so that he'd have good traction. Thank God that seems to be holding up very well. And he just seems to either he's driving harder or those tires are just working better for him.
Well, make your new leader Bob Wallach in the number 67 BF Goodrich Porsche. And that has got to be a real morale boost for this BFG team. They've been in this sport for a couple of years now with Porsches. They've not had too many opportunities to lead and win races. Bob Wallach is a big addition to this team. He's done a lot for the morale of this team with his ability to set up cars. Gary Lee is standing by with more from pit road.
Well, first of all, the work continues on the Applecon Mustang. We understand the computer chip, which regulates the ignition, has been changed. They'll see if that works. But a car that's now out of the race, and in fact has been pushed from the pit area back to the paddock area, is the Torno Porsche 962. We understand the engine was overheating, so with the heat that we have here in Florida, instead of taking a risk of blowing it up, they parked it. So at least one car now is out of the race.
Okay, thank you, Gary, but a Porsche 962 is in fact leading the race. Bob Wallach opening up a surprising lead on Cyril van der Merwe in that Corvette, Lynn.
He is driving an extremely aggressive race. I mean, he's flinging the car, and he's being very aggressive in traffic. And Bob is an excellent street racer. Of course, he's won Miami, he's won, but he's just slinging that car around. I hope that he doesn't end up using up the tires so that he has to come in and make a stop for tires sooner than he needs to.
Well, here you see the battle between Chip Robinson of the number 14 machine and the number 16 of Bryce Cobb, using Chip Robinson's rear wing on his number 16 orange and white Dyson Racing Porsche.
Looks like we have two Lowenbrow cars out there.
But in fact, we're watching one Lowenbrow car and one Dyson Racing Porsche. This is the battle for third place behind the skirmish going on up front between Wallach and van der Merwe. And Bryce Cobb is all over Chip Robinson. Good battle here. Here we go down the long straightaway, Lynn. Let's see if Price maybe tries to set Chip up as they head for the turn. Looks like he takes a shot to the inside, now the outside.
The outside is a very difficult place to pass, obviously, here, even though it is the better line through the exit. You're able to get a little better exit, but it's a difficult way to try to actually execute a pass. But I think he's just letting Chip know, I'm here, I'm going to maybe be on the outside, I may be on the inside, but you better watch, I'm here.
Once more down the back straightaway into turn number 3 and up into what is basically a parking lot for the Municipal Baseball Stadium here in West Palm Beach. Concrete barriers weighing 9,000 pounds apiece, ringing the course, making left turns and right turns. Some of the drivers very outspoken about having them a little bit too close together for much passing. But as you can see, that hasn't stopped Bob Wallach, and it's probably not going to stop Bryce Cobb, who is approaching the part of the course where he had his accident this morning. Right here, he tried to overtake two slower cars. The three of them came together. The Brent O'Neill and Mike Snow machine went on its head into those tires that you see in the background. That car was wrecked and is out of the race. The other car involved with Ron Cohen at the controls of a Chevy March was damaged, but is able to get back in the race. We'll take a look at him a little later, and you'll see just how much damage was done. Bryce Cobb lost his rear wing, but now he's going to try on the outside again against Chip Robinson.
You know, he's got the inside and the exit speed, so he had that better exit, and I think he's executed the pass. Can we get our camera over there so we can see? He was able to execute.
Nope, it's a drag race again. I think Bryce overcooked it a little bit coming out of turn number 2, and Chip Robinson is able to hold on, but only by the skin of his teeth.
Those two hairpins are so incredibly tight that, you know, if you go into it too hard, then you've got to come to almost a complete stop. We can't get the turnaround. He took the classic line on the outside and was able to try to get that pass which he was able to execute exiting the turn, but then the next turn was a right-hander, and he was really not set up to be able to get into that right-hander. He's got some smoke coming out of the back, which I hope is not a problem.
Well, the crew checked over the engine bay of that Porsche 962 very carefully after the accident this morning, and they said that everything was all right with the help of the engine builders par excellence in Porsche racing, those being the Andau folks from out in California. They said it's ready to go. All they needed was some new body work. They've got that. But we saw some mysterious smoke from the back of Price Cobb's machine.
Let's see if he's going to do it again. Now he's going back down here in turn 1, and this time Chip is not going to give him the outside line. He crowded him so that he couldn't do that.
Well, the battle continues. We are still very, very early in the second running of the Grand Prix of Palm Beach as you watch Chip Robinson and Price Cobb make their way onto the backstretch. We'll let you know how it turns out when we come back. You're watching live on ESPN. Don't forget, later on today, more racing action here on ESPN at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the NASCAR Winston Cup Budweiser 400 from Riverside, California. First road race of the year for the Winston Cup stock car crowd. Bob Jenkins and Larry Nuber are there. You won't want to miss that. Coming up at 8 o'clock Eastern Time right here on ESPN. Here in Palm Beach, Bob Wallach has got a windshield full of the number 19 lights car of Scott Schubert. And you see he makes the pass. Traffic continues to be the bane of our leader. We'll try to catch Bob Wallach when he comes by one of these times and see just how fast he is going. Keep in mind, these cars are capable of 200 miles an hour. The fastest lap in practice was turned by Cyril van der Merwe in the Corvette at just under 90 miles an hour. So that's how much the course has slowed him down.
We just got a clock on Bob, and he turned a 107, which is about what he qualified at. So I'm sensing now that Cyril must have slowed down to get into more of a race pace, because early he was turning 104s.
And the battle continues for third place, as you see, between the number 14 Lowenbrow Porsche of Chip Robinson, and he has got some kind of left side front end damage there. That is the result of his altercation earlier with Bob Wallach in the number 67 car.
That should affect the aerodynamics, and it'll affect the amount of traction the front end gets, but it doesn't look like it's too dramatic, so it should be all right.
Okay, we'll watch as that battle has apparently cooled a little bit for third place. We'll watch as some of the other cars circulate. Watch the space between turns 8 and 9, and there is the number 09 car. That is the Steve Durst Mike Brockman machine. Mike Brockman at the controls right now. He's being chased around by A.J. Foyt in his 962. Number 1 car with Columbia Crest Wineries sponsorship. A.J. making one of his infrequent appearances on the circuit, but A.J. has one of the better winning records in IMSA GT racing. There's a look at Mike Brockman. Right now, I would imagine Mike Brockman is looking back at A.J. Foyt, who will try the inside pass as they head down the backside. No.
If he had tried to make that turn that early, he would not have been able to make it around.
Excuse me, Lynn, right behind A.J. Foyt, you see the number 73 machine of Howard Katz and Steve Phillips. That is for second place. 09, Mike Brockman is leading in Camel Lights as A.J. Foyt waves goodbye on the front straightaway. But Mike Brockman now has to think about Howard Katz coming up behind him in that number 73.
I'm surprised how long it took A.J. to actually get by that light car, but even on the straightaway, he may be having a problem with the engine where it is not running clean or not running well, because he's been staying with him even into the infield section. So it really indicates that he may be having some engine problems.
Let me make a correction. It's Steve Phillips in the 73 car chasing Mike Brockman at this point. Howard Katz will relieve later on, we assume. A.J. Foyt had a lot of trouble getting that turbocharger tuned up. In fact, he waved off his single car qualifying effort because the turbo broke. Let's go down to Derek Bell in the pits.
I'm down here in the Corvette pits. There is some front end damage. The mechanics are now taking the front body section off the car. Van der Merwe has turned off the engine. He's waving inside to his mechanics. He's not sure how long he's got to stay. The mechanics are checking out the front radiator system. They're checking the suspension at the moment. Van der Merwe still has not fired up the engine. The crew chief is talking to something he needs. Van der Merwe needs something else. There's something more than the front end damage. The new nose cone is now coming out. They're going to top the car up with fuel. But Van der Merwe is losing precious, precious seconds as he sits here in the pits. Nothing the driver can do. He's waving his arms, talking to the crew chief. Nothing else they can do. Just got the front nose cone back on the car.
Well, Derek, this is going to be a very, very costly pit stop for the Corvette team.
Well, it's so, in a short track like this, you not only lose precious seconds, but you can use, laps, because if you're in there for a minute, a little over a minute, you lose a lap. And that, of course, can be critical. If some yellows come out later, it's very hard to earn those laps back.
In fact, I think that the Corvette of Cyril van der Merwe and Doc Bundy has been put a lap down. I believe the leaders have gone by. And this is really going to be costly. This is a race that they won last year. They thought they had an excellent chance to win it again this year. They've worked very hard on that car's fuel economy. They've got it up to a whopping 2.7 miles per gallon. And that was going to allow them, they hope, to handle this race 3 hours and only 2 gas and tire stops. But right now, it looks like Cyril van der Merwe is going to have an awful lot of ground to make up on the leader.
One thing I'd like to mention here is that he went about 25 laps before this has happened. This may be a little bit of an advantage since they were able to fill him back up with fuel. If they have a yellow later on, or if they don't have a yellow, and other cars have to come in and actually make pit stops, he's already got a full load of fuel. So if there's a problem when they make that pit stop, he might be able to earn those laps back.
Okay, now we understand that the problem that Cyril van der Merwe had was caused when he ducked underneath Charles Morgan in a Pontiac Fiero number 06 and caused that damage to the front end. There you see him back circulating once again. So, an early problem for Cyril van der Merwe and Doc Bundy, our defending champions. Quick Facts are brought to you by new Quaker State with QSX. It keeps your engine cleaner to last longer.
West Palm Beach is the kind of racetrack that will eat up a lot of race cars. It's very tight, very narrow. We'll see a lot of body contact. And for that reason, the teams have lots of spares here in the pit area. In fact, reigning Camel GT champion Al Holbert says he has between $50,000 and $70,000 in spares. A Porsche 962 nose can cost between $7,000 and $12,000 depending on who you buy it from. A tail section between $12,000 and $20,000. Each wheel is $1,000 a piece. A set of tires about $750, plus all the suspension components, plus fuel, oil, and all the tools. So between $50,000 and $70,000 just in spares for this race alone.
Well, that's what spare parts are all about. As you see the damage done to the Corvette nose when he tried to make a pass and got too close to another car on this very, very tight West Palm Beach road course. We'll be back for more live racing action. Inside the fastest car on the racetrack here at the Grand Prix of Palm Beach, Bob Wallach, who is absolutely driving the wheels, as the saying goes, right off of that number 67 Porsche, weaving in and out of traffic. He is absolutely flying around this racetrack, and he has a 25-second lead after that long pit stop by the Corvette of Cyril van der Merwe. There you see him making his way around through the hairpin, down the short chute to turn number 2.
I happened to see that last turn. It looks like he's just getting ready to lap A.J. Foyt, who made a good move and now is up into 5th place. But it looks like Bob is just getting ready to lap A.J.
Well, tires and fuel are expected to see a battle throughout the day. There you see A.J. Foyt making his way around. He cuts inside Don Bell. No, he follows Don Bell in the 01 Camel Lights machine. We've got Gary Lee standing by in A.J. Foyt's pit with more on A.J.'s situation.
What Lynn had said earlier about perhaps there was something wrong with AJ's engine when he had trouble getting around a light car. We came down here. Indeed, he did have a miss for a lap or two, but it cleared itself up. Everything is fine now. But as long as we're down here, let's call this guy over right here. This is John Fisher, and I think during our broadcast from Milwaukee, we called him John Bishop a couple of times. The last time we saw him, he had been burned at Milwaukee and inhaled all the hot gases. But obviously, John, you're okay now.
Yes, I feel pretty good. A little problem with my left eye, but other than that, doing pretty good and back to work full tilt.
So we wanted to get the proper identification for all of his friends and his neighbors and his relatives, and John's feeling better. Thank you. And now let's go on down the pit area to Derek Daly.
The plan for the 52 Corvette was that Doc Bundy would get in on the first pit stop, but he didn't quite anticipate that Cyril van der Merwe would be in so soon. So what's going to happen now, Doc?
Well, I think, Derek, what happened was that there was some confusion. When he had whatever accident happened out there, he didn't call in to let us know he was coming, so I was totally unprepared for the stop. He's had to go back out, and now hopefully he'll run the tank out. But just in case he won't, I'll stay dressed and ready to go.
So do we know, is there any internal damage on the car, or was it just the bodywork?
He has not said anything over the radio, so right now it's a mystery to all of us.
Okay, but Doc Bundy is dressed and ready to go should the car return.
Thanks very much, Derek. You watched Sarel van der Merwe as he makes his way around in the Corvette while we were on the racetrack, or while we were in the pits with Gary and Derek, excuse me. The number 63 car, third place in Camel Light's Jim Downing, came in with some right side damage, stayed for about 20 seconds and went back out. So that'll shuffle the order somewhat in the middle of the race within a race for Camel Light's competitors.
The fact that Sarel hasn't talked to Doc or to the team at all, I hope his radio's working. I was just thinking his radio might not be working. It really could add some confusion to that pit.
Well, whether the radio's working or not, you can bet that Sarel van der Merwe is working, as is this guy, Bob Wallach, who is flying around this racetrack.
As is the form of Mr. Wallach, I think he is driving very aggressively. He always does, but I just think he's even doing a superb job of driving much more aggressively than I would suspect this early in the race, as hot as it is. You know, they all have cool suits, but he's just flinging that car around. He's using those tires up. I can't even say that it's slick out there because no one else seems to be slipping and sliding as much as Bob Wallach is in that 962. He obviously lapped AJ because he was approaching him before and now he's ahead of him, so he's got a lap on AJ. I think we have 4 cars on the lead lap, so AJ's running 5th and already got a lap down.
That's just how hard Bob Wallach is driving. He is in the lead, and there are only 4 cars on the lead lap with him. A little too rich for AJ's taste, apparently. There you see the man himself, 4-time winner of the Indianapolis 500. And here is the Corvette back in the pits. Sarel van der Merwe is the taller driver to the left. He has gotten out. Doc Bundy is getting in. Derek Daly is standing by in that pit.
Okay, there is a driver change. Doc Bundy did do the right thing to get dressed. They are strapping him in now. Something is wrong with the car because Sarel van der Merwe was shaking his arms when he jumped out of the car. I don't know what it is. They're changing or looking at the right rear tire. They're changing the left rear tire also. Just rear tires on this car. So they're obviously happy with the handling of the front end of the car. There is a little bit of damage on the bodywork on the side here that I can see. Looks like he got into another car. But Sarel van der Merwe is away to get a drink and have a rest. And Doc Bundy takes over in the Corvette.
Well, Derek, it looks like that might be a terrible stop for the Corvette team. You saw them playing with the bodywork, and up goes the hood. Not a good sign at all. You can't afford to spend any time in the pits on a race course as tight as this one here in Palm Beach. But now, apparently, the Corvette team, owned by Rick Hendrick out of Charlotte, North Carolina, of stock car fame on the NASCAR circuit, apparently they have got a problem that is going to keep them in the pits for a long, long time. Action going on some engine part on the wall there. Can't quite make out what it is, but obviously it's something that they're not going to be able to do without. Back inside the leader car now. Our in-car camera being carried by Bob Wallach, who continues to make tracks. He's been skidding around pretty badly here at this part of the race course before. He's looking pretty smooth now. Ignition box is what we are now being told is the problem with the Corvette. They'll get it fixed, hopefully get back into the action, and we'll be right back. Field summary, running through the field to show you exactly how everybody's doing here at the Palm Beach Grand Prix. Bob Wallach, here carrying our in-car camera, has opened his lead to a full 32 seconds. That's almost half a lap over the second place car of Chip Robinson.
Boy, as he came out of that turn, it looked like he just came that close to the wall. You could actually see the wall through the windshield as if he was heading on straight forward. So he's using up all that racetrack.
44-year-old Bob Wallach out of Strasbourg, France. If fitness is any measure of how a driver is going to be able to do in this 3-hour race, you know Bob Wallach's in good shape. A great skier and tennis player. Here is the number 1 car, A.J. Foyt in the machine, some 50 years young, out of Houston, Texas. A.J. has had a rough day today. Doesn't look like, unless that car suffers a change of fitness, that A.J. Foyt's going to be able to get back into it. But right now, he is holding down 4th place on the racetrack.
He seems to be having that misfire intermittently, so maybe it clears up for a while and then he seems to have an intermittent misfire.
Here is Jim Downing in the number 63 lights machine. He has been having trouble all day. We mentioned that he came in with some right side damage a little bit earlier. He has also spun that car once while we were away for commercial, but he has clear racetrack now in front of him. As you can see, 18 victories in his career. Jim is the only champion of the Camel Lights class, which has been around for 2 years. These lightweight, less expensive, not quite as fast as the big prototype cars. Jim Downing, who named the the class, came up with the title Camel Lights, and he has won it the last 2 years.
I was surprised for Jim, you know, with those few errors that he's made, he's not even in the top 5 right now in the lights, so he's going to have a long race ahead of him. And it's his first time he's run here, though, so he'll have a lot. He'll learn a lot, I'm sure.
Here is the second place car on the racetrack. That is Chip Robinson in the Porsche 962, number 14. Chip has been having a rough day of it as well. He managed to knock Bob Wallach out of the way and take second place briefly, but Wallach got it back. Right now, Chip Robinson, who has a budding IndyCar career going on, while he makes his way through the Camel GT ranks, he is the points leader. He is in line for his first Camel GTP driver's title this year. He has a fat lead over Al Holbert, his car owner.
Well, he seems to have a little bit more of a lead now over Price Cobb. Before they were running, you know, just neck and neck, running fender to fender. Now he has a nice little lead over Price.
In fact, Price Cobb in the white and orange number 16 Porsche is being shadowed here by the number 4 Ford. Now, we had a misfire in that 7-liter normally aspirated Ford a little bit earlier, but right now Scott Pruitt making his way along right behind Price Cobb, and he's giving him about all he can handle.
This will be a good chance to see if the Ford is running clean, because Price is obviously running well, and so if the Ford Applicon car can stay with him, then maybe that misfire was finally solved.
Well, they are out of the top 10 right now. Scott Pruitt trying to make it a clean sweep weekend. He was in Detroit, Michigan yesterday, where he won the Sports Car Club of America Trans Am, leading that race from start to finish. Hopped on an airplane, flew down here last night, and he has joined Whitney Gantz behind the wheel of that black Ford Probe GTP car. Now the battle goes down the front door straight away, and you see just how easily Price Cobb and Scott Pruitt go by the Camel Lights car of Jim Downing. Looks as though Price definitely has the edge on the long straightaway.
Well, they stay just about the same, so I think that means they're both running well and both running clean, so let's hope that lasts for a little while.
Okay, Derek Daly is standing by with Cyril Vandenberg. Let's see if we can learn more about the situation involving the Corvette.
We're in under the shade of the fuel tank here for Cyril to get his breath back, get some cool air. Cyril, what caused the damage on the front of the car?
I had a misunderstanding with the Camel Light car. He was going to let me by, but I'd already been on that line, so he pulled over to let me through to the right. And I was on the line, so I just went up his backside.
What about the resurfacing? What are the track conditions like now?
It's breaking up here and there, but not as bad as yesterday.
What about the engine problem? What was that?
I think it might be a wastegate, because the boost went up dramatically. It went from 80 inches to 120. So it looks like the wastegate might have blown a seal or something.
So now in this situation, what's the strategy plan for the team?
Well, we have to see whether they fixed it or not, and whether they can fix it.
Okay, Cyril's still under the fuel tank for the shade. He's going to have a drink. That's it from this camp.
Okay, thank you, Derek. He is now out of the top 10, so the Chevy Corvette also has a long road to get back into this battle. There you see Price Cobb with Scott Pruitt still nipping at his heels. It's been a long day today for Price Cobb, who had the accident this morning, tore off the back of his car. Gary Lee asked him a little bit about what it takes to drive on this sort of a track.
This is the type of race where you like to have a teammate, because no one would like to go out and go the distance. It's really too hot, too humid, and you're working really too much in the cockpit. A lot of shifting, a lot of sawing on the steering wheel.
Yeah, exactly. You do have a lot of effort to put into physically moving the wheel, moving the shifter, and it's constant. You never really get a rest, even on the straightaway, because it's short, and the turn is so tight getting onto the straightaway that you have to be in the lowest gear, then run through the gearbox as fast as you can. So you're always working, and it will be a very hot and heavy and humid race.
Well, it's not only hot. Scott Pruitt making up a lap on Price Cobb. He is not leading him in the actual overall standings of the race, but right there, Scott Pruitt put a nice move under braking on that Porsche. He's driving a car that's a bit lighter. Normally aspirated cars under the weight to displacement system used in IMSA racing allows a normally aspirated car like that 7-liter Ford to weigh a couple hundred pounds less than the Porsche, and that helps under braking, Lynn. Now you see Scott Pruitt catching up, perhaps, on Chip Robinson.
Scott Pruitt's got all the horsepower of that V8. He's going to use it while he's got it, particularly if they've had an intermittent misfire and that's now running clean. I'm sure he's going to try to use it all up. You notice when he made that pass, it really held up Price considerably, because both of them looked like they almost came to a complete stop to be able to get around that hairpin.
Okay, we saw Chip Robinson's car. Gary Lee is standing by in the pits with his co-driver, Derek Bell.
Well, of course, this is Father's Day, and I can't be in Indianapolis with my dad, but one father has taken the day off to be at home with his family. Al Holbert has turned everything over to Derek Bell. He said, I'm going back home to Pennsylvania, so you're the guy in charge. And I understand now, because it's a 2-pit stop race, you're going to let the youth do all the work. You're going to let the starter and the anchor man be Chip, and you'll just run the one middle section.
Well, it just depends on yellows and that sort of thing. It could easily be that he would do the first half, you know, if we'd had a yellow early on, and then I'd have done the last half. But this is the way to be, because we've just got to stop the twice. But we'll just have to see what happens during the next part of the race, really. In
the legal profession, we call him Judge Pro Tem. Does this make you the manager pro tem this weekend, since the boss is back home?
I've no doubt he's watching, so I'm sure he'll be on the phone if anything goes wrong, but we're going to be trying pretty hard. No, I'm not the manager. We've got a very good crew chief, and he'll be doing all the work. I'm just here as sort of the older statesman, if you like.
Well, there's the 5-time victor at Le Mans. He's standing by, ready to go in whenever Chip stops.
Indeed, 5-time victor. I think just about after every Le Mans, Derek Bell says, that's the last time. I'm never going to go back and do it again. Of course, next year, there is Derek Bell. At age 45, only one man has won Le Mans more than Derek Bell, and that is Jackie Ickx, his former teammate, who has won it 6 times. Chip Robinson has Scott Pruitt right behind him. We'll come back and see if Pruitt can close it up, maybe lay a pass on a Porsche in just a moment. We're back at Palm Beach, home of the world-famous Breakers Hotel, right on the Atlantic Ocean. Again, we'd like to wish all of our viewers out there happy Father's Day. If you happen to be a father, Gary Lee wished his dad in Indianapolis a happy Father's Day. I'll do the same for my pop up in New York.
I was talking to one of the Roush member teams, and one of them is an expectant father, hoping to get a phone call today to find out that he is a dad for the first time.
Oh my, a father at a racetrack. May find himself single when he goes home. There is Chip Robinson, who is not a father, and here you are inside the car of Bob Wallach, your leader, who continues to make his way around this 1.6-mile track at a furious pace. Lynn, Bob will do the driving. You tell us about the lap.
Well, we're just coming out of turn 6 going into turn 7 here. I was just watching, and he actually is handling very well. That was the area that was very marbly yesterday, and not only is it holding, but he's able to get a lot of stick, a lot of grip. We're now downshifting, almost coming to a complete stop, going into first gear and coming out through turn 10, leading onto the straightaway. Quick shifts now from first, second, third, fourth. He's probably shifting already now into 5th gear. Top speed, I would guess, is probably about 170 on the straightaway. And then you got to come to a complete stop again, down into first gear, and then another left hand, very tight, opposite locks. The back end will come out, and then a quick shift to second, going into turn 2 here, a quick shift to third. Turn 2 is one of the more straightforward turns. It's a nice one to go through. Hard on the brakes, back down to second gear, and a hard left-hander, or actually a fast hard left-hander. And this is a very constant radius turn. It's actually a double apex type turn. Quick shift up to third, back down to second. That huge concrete patch there, which is turn 5. Then we've got a left-hand turn. We're staying in second gear all the way through this. And there's Downing spun.
Oh, poor Jim Downing spun for the 2nd time.
He must be having a problem here.
Jim Downing, obviously he could have been in the thick of something dangerous there, but he was able to get it straightened out.
Very uncharacteristic for Jim.
Normally a very meticulous driver, but he definitely has his hand full with that Mazda-powered Argo racer today.
Fortunately, it didn't look like he hit a wall or anything, so he can continue on.
You see the signature right there on the right side there, where he took a shot from somebody's tire. Now we're back with Chip Robinson making his way around in the number 14 car in 2nd place on the racetrack, but a good half-minute or more behind our leader, Bob Wallach.
You notice that damage on the left front is the same as it looked after about the 2nd lap after they had that altercation, so it should not be affecting the car, and it just seems to be staying right there.
Not only is he leading in the Camel GTP category, but as you can see from our graphic, Chip Robinson is also leading the Porsche Cup standings. That's a special fund put together by the Porsche racing operation in Europe, honoring a Porsche driver in any class of racing in the United States who shows great success in handling Porsche products. You see the number 4, that's the Ford GTP moving up once again. Scott Pruitt at the wheel. Now they had spent that long pit stop, and they were presently being shown in 17th place overall, but the Corvette has also pitted once again as their woes continue, and we may see the number 4 moving up into 16th spot.
Really, I think closing, not a lot, but he is definitely being able to, to hold the gap between Chip and himself and maybe closing a little bit. So he's going to have, now that he's got a clean running car, he's going to have to go for it, get as much out of it as he can, and hope to be able to gain a little bit, each position that he can get up and unlap himself. If the yellow comes out or something, he might work his way back into the top 5.
Out of Roseville, California, young Scott Pruitt knows this racetrack very well. He won the GTO event on this very same race course last year before making the move up to GTP racing at the Columbus, Ohio race toward the end of last year, driving with Bob Wallach in a Porsche, and Scott Pruitt won his debut effort in GTP racing. So he's obviously well equipped to handle that great big 7-liter 427 cubic inch Ford engine. Interesting to me, Lynn, that the cars do come to almost a complete stop before they make the left-hand turn. They might just kind of wind into it a little bit, but I guess is the braking so heavy that you can't turn?
Well, if you're on the brakes when you try to make that turn, it just makes the turning that much more difficult. So you have to get that car stopped and literally pitch the car around and go into an opposite lock position. You even use the power a little bit to get you around, but you have to be careful there that you don't burn off your rear tires doing that. We've got Chip up here right now just passing AJ. So AJ must be having that misfire because I'm sure he's not enjoying that.
The lead is now up to 44 seconds as we watch Chip Robinson passing AJ Foyt, who's been managing a consistent pace, but just not a very fast one today. This is the first time this car has been out on a racetrack since a tremendous accident on pit lane at Sebring, Florida. Whoa, we've got a spin. I believe that's the 01 machine. That's Don Bell out of California. He is the leader in Camel Lights points this year. And I believe it was Don who started that car, and he has spun in a bad spot because the cars can't see him as they exit the turn, and yet he pulls right across the racing line.
Well, I hope he was looking at a corner worker who was signaling him to do that.
I'm sure that's the case. There you see the in-car camera going by the scene.
It's so difficult here because it's so narrow that if you do spin off like that, you can't get away from the racing line, and it's very difficult because the turning radius on these cars are so they're just not that short that you can get the car completely around.
And now Don Bell has got it nosed up to the barrier. I think he's got a problem with that car.
He's probably stalled it, and if it's hot, he can't get it restarted to get it out of the, he's right at the apex, right in the racing line.
Don Bell had taken over third place in the Camel Lights race within a race here at Palm Beach, but obviously he will lose that spot. There are your leaders. Bob Wallach stays out front, and we'll be right back. You're watching live at West Palm Beach, Florida, as the pit action has picked up considerably as we approach the 1 hour mark. There you see AJ Foyt assisting Davy Jones into the machine, that #1 Porsche. Let's go down to Derek Daly in the pits.
Dehydration can be a major problem in enclosed cars like this on such a hot day. Now, we've seen Jim Downing spin several times. The pit crew, all they know is that he stopped to refill his drink bottle that he carries in the car with him. So when you get dehydrated, your concentration level goes down. That may be a major problem for Jim Downing at the moment. Maybe why he's spinning.
Okay, thank you, Derek, as we watch young Davy Jones make his way out onto the racetrack, taking over for AJ Foyt. We saw the Shelton brothers car come right out along with him. Almost had a little kerfuffle right there on the pit road. I mentioned earlier that is what broke AJ Foyt's car at Sebring. He got clobbered by one of the small GTU cars, a production-based Mazda RX-7. Absolutely shattered the whole left side of that car, and this is his first time back in action with that car since that time. AJ Foyt and Davy Jones are a great story, and we had an opportunity to take a look at their relationship a little earlier.
You told me a couple of seasons back that one time you would pick a young driver and work with a young driver. I ask you at Indy this year, is that driver Davy Jones? Obviously, with what has happened at Indy, and now you have him co-driving with you this weekend, you have to be very happy with Davy Jones.
Well, so far he showed me a lot of promise. I think the boy's got a lot of ability. And like I said, I'm 52 and he's 22, and we're looking for a young driver, and I think things are going to work out pretty good for probably me and him both.
It's something that I've always, wanted to do, is to be able to continue in my racing career, and to be able to work with somebody like AJ is an ideal opportunity that he's given me this chance. And, I'm here because I've proven my experience and my background. I'm capable of doing it. So I'm trying hard to do the best job that I can do with him, and I hope that we have success together.
Do you see yourself in a professor role now? Is this a fatherly role that you have with Davey? You're talking about the age difference, obviously so much expertise that you can pass along. Has your perception of you changed?
Well, I don't think so. We was going over a lot of things, Davey and I, and then I didn't really get on him, but I did scold him once at Indy, and nothing real serious. And, I know I'm going to have to go through this stuff with new drivers because I've been there for a long time. And sometimes they always look, well, we can still outrun the old man and this and that. But maybe that's one thing that's making me speed up this year. But really, I think you have to come down on them, just set them straight. And I think Davey's the type of boy, though, is going to make a fine race driver. He's a good race driver now, but I think you hear a lot from the boy.
I guess he's more of a father figure than a teacher because he hasn't given me any homework yet. And I just hope I can get some great A's from him. So, you know, if we keep working together and you know, just do the best that I can, and I know that he'll always do the best that he can, and it's natural to him, and I'm learning, so I think we're going to have success.
Well, right now, holding down 5th place on the racetrack is young Davy Jones. There you see the number 14 car. That is Chip Robinson, who was in. He was in 3rd place at the time with 53 laps complete. You see there is a driver change. That's Robinson with the white, black, and red helmet, assisting 5-time Le Mans 24-hour winner Derek Bell into the car. There's going to be no loss of ability behind the wheel there.
One of the most critical things right now is to make sure that Chip gets that cool suit plugged in. I'm sure that Derek is going to be concerned to make sure that happens, but it seemed to be a very good stop. Typical fashion for the Lowengrau team, but everybody got the job done. Chip seemed to get out quickly and was able to get everything hooked up for Derek.
Okay, it takes about a minute and 8 to 10 seconds at race speeds to get around this racetrack, so you do have time to make a good, secure pit stop, and evidently that's what Derek Bell and Chip Robinson did there. With more on A.J. Foyt and Davy Jones, Gary Lee is standing by with the man himself.
And here on Father's Day, every guy over 50 is cheering for A.J., and you look surprisingly fresh after driving for an hour.
I feel pretty good. We're having a lot of engine problem, something with the fuel system or something that's popping and banging more to go that's really hurting us down the main straightaway.
When you got out of the race car, I said you never dreamed of a wetsuit back in 1958, did you?
Oh, I think it's got its pluses and minuses, but it worked today. It was real worth the money today.
Right now it feels pretty good because we're standing here in front of a fan and some cool air blowing on us.
Yeah, it feels real good.
All right, so there's A.J. out and young Davy Jones in the cockpit.
Thank you, Gary. We are now back, you see, in the cockpit of our lead car. Bob Wallach still at the T-board in that number 67 BF Goodrich Porsche. We are now 54 laps complete into the race. We don't know how many laps we'll complete. This is a timed race. At the end of 3 hours, we'll stop, and whoever is there in the lead will win the race.
Everybody's made, almost everybody, the leaders, most of them have made their pit stop, so I would anticipate that Wallach is going to be making a stop pretty soon. His tires are still seem to be holding up. You know, as much as he's been thrashing the car around, but a little bit of a slide there, but he's still, it's holding up well, but I would think that he should be coming in soon for a stop for fresh tires, full load of fuel, and a driver change, I would think.
Normally the mileage leaders in the GTP category, among the Porsches at any rate, is Al Holbert's Lowenbrau team. They really have it down to a science, and they normally go the longest before making their stop. As we've seen, they've already made that stop, and so it can only be a matter of time before we see Bob Wallach bring that machine in. We mentioned that the stop has been made by the Lowenbrau team, and I believe Gary Lee is standing by with the man who just got out of that car, Chip Robinson.
And Chip right now is taking a deep breath, and he's had a chance to cool off just a bit. How hot is it, and how bad are the track conditions?
Well, compared to last year, for me, it's nowhere near as bad heat-wise. The cool suit's working this year. Last year, it didn't work on me at the first lap, so it's much better in that respect. The racetrack's breaking up all of the slow corners over there. I guess corners 4 through 8 or so. Getting marbly. It's going to be pretty bad by the end of the race.
How taxing is it on this tight race course to get through the slower traffic with the light car?
Well, it's difficult, you know, because it's such a timing thing, and especially in the back section there, you almost have to wait unless you want to take a big risk getting out the marbles where there is absolutely no grip. I had to go around a couple of cars that had spun and, you know, got out of the marbles, and there was no grip out there at all. That was the first gear.
So we'll go back topside because we anticipate a pit stop by the leader very shortly.
Okay, thank you, Gary. We'll be watching for the number 67 Porsche with Bob Wallach, who comes down the front straightaway, as you can see from inside his car. He is right on the tailpipe of the Jaguar, and he goes inside under braking for turn 1.
It's a very clean pass. You can see that they both had to bring those cars down to almost a complete stop, but they went on the inside, and it was just an absolute clean pass.
With that pass, we now have 3 cars on the lead lap. Bob Wallach with a lead of a full minute on the rest of the field. That's just the kind of pad you need, Lynn, to get that pit stop in and retain the lead.
That's right. He can be in and out of the pits and not lose a position at all and maintain that lead.
Interesting that Bob Wallach won both of the street races last year with very much younger co-drivers. Bob is up 40-ish years of age. He drove with Paolo Barilla, who was in his 20s, and Scott Pruitt, who was in his 20s, to win both at Miami and at Columbus, Ohio last year. And he did each one in the same way, by getting that big lead before putting the young driver, the less experienced driver, if you will, into that car. And it looks as though Bob Wallach out of Strasbourg, France, is holding to that pattern today. He wants to get a fat lead before putting Darren Brassfield into the car.
Well, those younger drivers are very, very equipped, very capable, but Bob, I just think, is a superb street race driver. As Tom Bloy was, who won yesterday in the GTO race, there are just certain drivers that seem to be much better on street races, on street courses, and Bob is certainly a master here.
Bob Wallach, we mentioned that he is a very fit individual. He was a member of the 1964 French national ski team. He also played soccer and tennis at a very high level, and he stays in very good shape.
He just got a lap time on Bob, and it was a 1:08, which is only a second off of what he qualified at. So Chip had mentioned about the track breaking up, but it must be holding up pretty well, because otherwise they could not be turning that close to a qualifying lap speed.
We have 57 laps complete as the action continues here at Palm Beach, Florida. You see over the patchy parts of the racetrack once again. This is where Chip Robinson says it's starting to break up again, and that can be very dangerous. Yesterday, making one of these turns, Willie T. Ribbs put his Toyota Celica Turbo right into the wall. The car snapped out from under him before he could recover. We are still waiting for this BF Goodrich Porsche to make its pit stop. We'll see if Bob Wallach maybe drifts to the left a little bit to come in and make that stop, but no, he goes right on by the pylons and under the bridge. He will stay on the racetrack. Well, while we wait for Bob Wallach to make his stop, we'll take the opportunity to give you a stop, and we'll be back to Palm Beach live right after this. Bob Wallach's Porsche as we still await a pit stop by the leader in the 3-hour Camel Grand Prix of Palm Beach. We thought he was going to be coming in any moment now. I am really impressed at the mileage he's getting out of this Porsche, considering how hard he's been driving it, Liz.
That's exactly right. I was just thinking he's not backing off at all. He's driving incredibly hard. The tires are holding up very well because he's not drifting any more than he was earlier on, and he's getting good fuel mileage.
Bob Wallach makes his way down the short straight. He's going to make the left turn up into the parking lot area. Derek Daly has a comment on this situation.
The plan was that Bob Wallach would come in about 3 or 4 laps ago. He has the final choice because he knows exactly how much fuel he's using in the car. So they're having better fuel mileage than they anticipated, and Bob Wallach will be in very shortly.
I'm sure Bob Wallach wouldn't want me to mention this, but a year ago in this race, he had a lead of just about this length, just about this point in the race, driving for Bruce Levin in another Porsche, when a drive shaft broke and their race ended tragically. Whoa, and there's Doc Bundy outside, and he's got a fire in the Corvette.
He's trying to get the corner workers down there with their fire extinguisher bottles to get it out.
There was a corner worker there, but apparently they don't have a fire extinguisher, and Doc Bundy has got to get away from that car. It is burning furiously, as we can see. And this car might be totaled if someone doesn't get there very quickly with a fire extinguisher.
They need more than a fire extinguisher now. They're going to need a fire truck.
We're showing no yellow flag on the front straightaway, but Jim Sidley, the regular starter, does have his headset on. We could see the gas tank go on this car very shortly. This could be a very dangerous situation as Doc Bundy sprints across the track right in front of Davy Jones.
We are watching this. He's got
Bundy
a fire
has got
extinguisher.
a extinguisher. Oh, Doc, I don't think you can help it at this point, Doc. Doc Bundy exhibiting extraordinary bravery here as he steps up next to that car, burning furiously, getting a good stream, but I can't believe that can possibly do the trick for him. Where are the fire extinguishers? Where are the fire crews? And we might add, where is a yellow flag as Doc Bundy is standing out on the racetrack on the backside, the 1,300-foot Congress Avenue straightaway, fighting this furious fire, trying desperately to save his Corvette. At this point, all he wants to do is, we see fire trucks now arriving. At this point, all Doc wants to do is try to save as much as he can of the car. And a furious Doc Bundy is gesturing at the crews. They're coming out with what look like more handheld fire extinguishers. I'm not sure that's going to do it. You can see the plume of smoke rising above the auditorium complex that is the centerpiece of this Palm Beach racecourse. And the flames continue to skyrocket out of the number 52 Corvette. Oh my. I think handheld fire extinguishers aren't going to be able to do the trick. Huge acrid smoke billowing up from the back of the car. And here is what the oncoming cars will see. Smoke clouding the car, burning furiously up against the right side wall, and men walking around in that cloud of smoke. A very dangerous situation, and the yellow flag is now being shown on the front straightaway, so we have a full course caution situation. We expect to see the pace car make its way out onto the racetrack and will take the field in tow as they continue to fight the fire in that Goodrich Corvette. Well, while they continue to try to douse the fire in Doc Bundy's car, we'll take this opportunity to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back as the field is taken in hand by officials here in Palm Beach. On the short Commerce Avenue straightaway here in Palm Beach, as you're watching the remains of the Corvette number 52 being taken apart and extinguished by a fire crew that I would have to say was very late in arriving on the scene. A very dangerous situation as Doc Bundy climbed out of that car and tried to fight the fire by himself with a handheld fire extinguisher that he ran across the track to get from a course official while the race was still going along. Now, Lynn, this creates, as we're under caution here, this is a great opportunity. But first, let's get a comment from Gary Lee in the pits.
I'm down here with Bobby Hatch, and obviously your driver became the firefighter, the only firefighter out there, but you say you have no contact because the radio was not working before the altercation.
No, our radio seems to have went dead on transmission from the car. He can hear us, but we can't receive anything that he sends to us. And some problem has erupted, and obviously from what we hear over the track workers that he had to put out his own fire in the car.
Well, actually, I don't think he actually got the fire put out himself, and it's very frustrating for you because obviously he didn't get a lot of help out there, and you guys have no idea what's going on.
No, we'll just have to go back and when Doc gets back to the truck and find out what went on.
A lot of damage, we're being told, to the race car, and obviously you're a lot calmer about it than we have been in our broadcast booth.
Well, you're never calm about that, about any damage to a race car. We're just have to see what we have left when we get it back to the truck.
All right, we'll see if we can't get a comment from Doc Bundy upon his return to the pit area.
Well, that'll be a while, Gary, because Doc Bundy is still running back and forth to the truck to get more materials to put out the fire. Here is what it looked like as Doc Bundy got out of the car and walked away from it, waiting for firefighters that I'm sure he thought were going to arrive momentarily. The car burning furiously, and it did so for at least a full minute before any kind of help arrived. Now here is Doc. You can see how frustrated he was, and at this point he runs right across what is still a green racetrack.
He must have seen the corner worker holding the extinguisher and was trying to get him to run over, and he wouldn't, so Doc jumps right out in front of that race car. I mean, he literally risked his life at that moment to save his race car. And back, I mean, carrying all that stuff, he's heavy with all that gear he's carrying.
Now this is a great opportunity under caution for our leader Bob Wallach to make his pit stop, and that's what's going on. Derek Daly is standing by.
Bob Wallach is in. The driver change is being made. Darren Brasfield is just adjusting the seat at the moment. They're making a 4-tire change. Bob Wallach worked this yellow perfectly. What he did, the reason he stayed out so long, they turned the boost down at the start of the race because they were having a little bit of tire problem. Now what that did was it made the car go a little bit slower and save the tires. So they've had much better fuel consumption than they thought. And now they're filling the driver's cool suit bag. They're filling that with ice at the moment. That's what the crew is doing under yellow at the moment. Filling the cool suit with ice so as Darren Brasfield will have a good run. A perfect stop. The BF Goodrich car is in gear and Brasfield is back on the track.
Okay, thank you very much, Derek, and our leader will get back on the track and no doubt reassume the lead. The incident we just saw could very well have involved driver injury, and in order to make this racing even safer for the drivers involved, IMSA has instituted a new safety procedure, and Gary Lee has more on that.
In the record book, this is the fastest non-turbocharged production car in the world. It's a Porsche 928 S4. It was driven to 2 international speed records at the Bonneville Salt Flats last year by Al Holbert with a top speed of 171 miles per hour. But last year it was red, now it's been repainted white. And now the only thing red on this car is the cross, because this weekend, through the cooperation of Porsche North American and IMSA, this car will debut as the rapid response vehicle. Its intent for an IMSA licensed driver to take a doctor specializing in trauma to a catastrophic crash scene. The doctor would then stabilize the driver before the ambulance arrives. This car is able to go out into race traffic before the track has been neutralized, before the cars have been slowed down. The drivers have been instructed they cannot pass this car. Now, in the case of a pace car, the lights are amber with a strobe. In the case of emergency vehicles, the lights are red with a strobe. And with this car, a blue light with a strobe. Now, the equipment back here will include all the medical supplies that the doctor would need to stabilize the driver. It will later this season include the jaws of life for extrication purposes, and also a fire bottle, really to protect the occupants of this car. So last year, this vehicle was setting world speed records at the Bonneville Salt Flats. This season, it may be setting records and getting to a crash scene.
Thank you, Gary. And that's a procedure patterned after what is done in Europe in Formula One and sports car racing. A very fast car driven by a very fast driver to get to the scene of an accident very quickly. We are under caution here at Palm Beach, and we'll be back in a moment. We are still under caution here at West Palm Beach. The caution came out about 6 laps ago as Doc Bundy's Corvette is put on a truck and brought back. There are the top 10 as you see them under caution. The number 16 Dyson Racing Porsche has not yet pitted. That's a mystery we'll try to solve when we come back to Palm Beach. Palm Beach, Florida, you're watching as the BF Goodrich Porsche, now Darren Brassfield, having relieved Bob Wallach after 50 laps in the lead, has taken his place back in line. We have a radio in his car, and we're going to try to talk with Darren right now. Hello, Darren Brassfield. This is Bob Barsha in the ESPN announce booth. How do you read me?
Fine, Bob. Go ahead.
Well, you haven't had a chance to try the track surface, but at the reduced speeds you're able to make under caution, how does it feel?
It looks like it's a little slippery, but I think this has given me a good opportunity to see where it is going to be slippery at.
You're going to have a tremendous amount of traffic in front of you when we get rolling again under green. How are you going to handle it?
Well, I'm just going to try to be real smooth and not make any mistakes. You know, Bob built up a real good lead for us, and we don't want to blow it now.
Okay, thanks very much, Darren. Keep it between the walls.
Thanks, Bob. Hey, Darren.
Derek Daly is standing by with Darren Brassfield's teammate Bob Wallach, who has built their enormous lead. Let's go down to pit road.
Outside. Bob Wallach came out of his car with a big smile on his face. Bob, is everything going according to plan with your car?
Well, the car is performing well. What the handling is concerned, tires are working great, no problem at all. We have a major problem since the first lap, since the beginning, really. I have a hell of a lot of boost, sort of 90, 95 inches instead of 75, and we cannot adjust it in the car. And anyway, I think there's something, a line must be broken at the turbo, between the turbo and the wastegate. So I'm just revving the engine to 7 instead of revving 8, because over 7 it misses very badly. It doesn't have enough petrol according to the boost. So it's getting good fuel mileage, but terrible power,
Were you aware in the early stages of the race of a bad misfire?
Well, yeah, I could hear it right from the beginning. As I said, we cannot adjust it in the car, so I couldn't even try. But anyway, it wouldn't have worked because there's probably a line broken underneath the cover behind in the engine.
Okay, so Darren Brassfield has more boost than he would like, so he's not going to be able to go flat out from here for the rest of the race. A consistency run from here on in.
Well, that'll certainly challenge the driving skills of young Darren Brassfield, who expects to get a green flag, and we'll be back to take that green flag with you. Stay with us. Car of Price Cobb and Rob Dyson is in the pits. That is the last car among the contenders to take the pits, and this sets up the possibility, Lynn, that this car could go the rest of the way on one stop, depending on cautions.
Well, the other thing that it did, I just noticed as the pace car went by, it flagged the rest of the field around so that they could then get to Darren as the leader, so that the pace car has the leader. So now, rather than Darren being at the back of the field the way he was for a number of those laps under the pace car, he now is at the front of the field. So they've sorted the field out, and Darren has got his rightful lead position.
Well, with more on the fire involving the Corvette, let's get a story from Gary Lee in the pits.
Well, Bob, I think something that both Lynn and Derek would attest to, the greatest fear in racing is fire. And it's very frustrating to have a fire, climb out of the race car, and see nobody else around to help. We've gone to one IMSA official down in the pit area and said, where's the fire crew? We were first told the fire crew is the responsibility of the promoter. I said, well, somebody go on camera and tell me why the fire crew didn't respond. He said, no, the officials with IMSA that can tell you that are in the control tower outside the front straightaway. We can't get to them. If I could, I would, because I want to know, because I don't like to see a race car burn up and there's nobody there to fight it.
Okay, thank you, Gary. The remains of that Corvette are being removed on the back stretch, but we are still under caution. The field will circulate behind the pace car at least one more lap while they get that Corvette moved, and that's a story that's probably going to go on for some time, I would guess, Lynn.
The biggest fear is fire, and you know, there was a lot of oil in that engine, a lot of fuel there that could have exploded, you know, and I think I was worried when Doc stood still so closely to the car that, you know, if there'd been an explosion of some sort, that he would have still been too close. But the fear is there when you're in the car. Of course, it's an intense fear, but when you get out of the car, you're still not really escaping from that.
Well, the field continues to circulate under caution. New drivers are in the race cars, and we'll have a totally new race when we come back to Palm Beach, Florida. Live here on ESPN at West Palm Beach, Florida. Bob Barsh and Lynn St. James with you for the IMSA 3-hour Grand Prix of Palm Beach. Gary Lee and Derek Daly covering the action on pit road, and there has been action. A flurry of misfires in the engine compartment and other problems sidelined some of the early competition in this race. Then Bob Wallach dashed out to a big lead in the number 67 BF Goodrich Porsche before the Corvette of Cyril van der Merwe and Doc Bundy found itself up against the wall, engulfed in flames. Doc Bundy was able to get out, but without help from course workers, he was not able to put the fire out before the car was completely destroyed. About time for our mid-race recap, brought to you by the folks from Volkswagen. Our leader at halfway, as they have been for most of the race, Bob Wallach and Darren Brassfield. Brassfield now at the controls as we continue under caution. The average speed 78.5 more miles an hour, about 6 miles an hour faster than this race last year when they completed 136 laps of the course. There have been 4 lead vehicles, 5 changes of the lead. The lights leader, Steve Phillips and Howard Katz. Howard Katz now at the keyboard of the number 73 Taiga Racer. There you see the attrition thus far. Massimo Segala and Oscar Lerori bitterly disappointed, dropping out early on. Gary Wanzer and Nort Northam, and of course Doc Bundy and Cyril van der Merwe out as well. The pace car continues to lead, the number 67 Porsche, Darren Brassfield, followed by our lights leader, the 09 of Steve Durst. We'll be back to look for a green flag in just a moment. We're back at Palm Beach, where the field has been given the signal. There is one more lap under caution before we'll get the green flag. Meanwhile, our Gary Lee is standing by in the pits with a co-driver who has just climbed out of the lead car in the lights classification. That's Steve Katz from the 73 Taiga.
Well,
excuse me, Derek Daly is standing by with Steve Phillips. Go ahead, Derek.
Quietly going about his business this afternoon is the Camel Light leader, Steve Phillips. Steve, everything going according to plan this afternoon?
Everything's according to plan. The Chevy motor's running fine, the temperatures are good, and my partner's going to carry on now.
Have you had any trouble with the resurfacing of the track that a lot of people thought may cause some trouble during the race?
No, actually, the resurfacing actually helped from the way it was yesterday. It's holding up very well.
Okay, that's all from the Camel Light leader at the moment. He's looking for another consistent second half of the race.
Okay, thank you, Derek. I may have created the impression just for the commercial that Steve Durst was the lights leader, but in fact, it is Howard Katz who is making good time in that number 73 Chevrolet-powered Taiga Racer. The green flag is now in the hands of our flag man, and we expect them to get the green flag, and they do. And Darren Brassfield leaps to a quick lead as Scott Pruitt, no, that's Whitney Gantz now in the Ford, and dove underneath Steve Durst, and it looks as though he will once again set up his assault on leader Darren Brassfield. Traffic gets very tight down there in turn 1 as one at a time. You see the cars taking their different lines. But this man, Darren Brassfield, has time on his side. We are just 2 minutes past the halfway mark in this 3-hour race. And it has been dominated at this point by this car. The a great thing it would be for the BF Goodrich team, run by Jim Busby out of Newport Beach, California, if they could get a victory. A little bit longer shot, but a great victory it would be, too, for that black number 4. Jack Roush prepared for GTP effort. They have yet to see victory lane in the season, but it is their first season in GTP racing with this car. They have tried a variety of engines, and it was only just before the last race at Mid-Ohio that the IMSA rules were changed, allowing non-turbocharged engines with a displacement as high as 7 liters. Derek Daly is standing by in pit road. Derek?
What happens? This is what happens to the drivers on such a hot day. It's Lance Jones, the driver of car number 9, the Camel Light car. Just get out of the car. They're trying to revive him, give him some cool air. That's an ice towel. But this gives you an idea of the physical endurance the drivers must endure in a hot street race such as this.
Well, we saw the same kind of activity yesterday in the GTO race when one of the drivers, the Salvadoran driver who goes by the single name Foam 4, climbed out of his car and collapsed. He was taken to a local hospital for observation, but later released. And the heat and humidity are oppressive here, particularly in these enclosed race cars. They're not open like Indy cars or Formula Atlantic machines. And Lynn, you know better than I just how hot it can get inside the car.
It is. It's actually surprising because the engine is in the rear. Darren is really slipping around there. The engine is in the rear. You'd think the heat would escape, but somehow it's very hard to get any fresh air inside the cockpit there to be able to get any cooling.
Something that we learned in the 24 hours of Daytona, particularly with regard to the leader, the Holbert racing car that Chip Robinson, Derek Bell, Al Unser Jr., and Al Holbert drove to victory. At one point, they knocked a window on the driver's side out of the car in order to get some air in the car. What they found was that your average driver out there who drives a station wagon around with a rear window open learn is that it doesn't let air in, but the hot air from exhaust or from engine. Here's a field summary. You saw our leader, Darren Brassfield, make his way around. Here is Whitney Gantz out of Laguna Niguel, California, who has relieved Scott Pruitt in the number 4 Ford Mustang GTP effort. Whitney has driven for a number of teams this year, including the former Buick team of Phil Conti, no longer involved in IMSA GTP racing, now involved in the Ford camp is Whitney Gantz. There you see young Davy Jones, who made his Indy 500 debut thanks to the gracious offering of a car by his mentor A.J. Foyt. Davy Jones, a superior open-wheel racer, having driven Super Bs in the past and English Formula 3 cars. He was involved in the BMW effort last year in IMSA GTP racing, so he knows whereof he speaks as well. There you see Derek Bell moving around, the two-time defending world champion in sports car racing, longtime Al Holbert co-driver.
You know, after having all of those laps, I think we had 22 minutes under yellow. A lot of the tires are going to be pretty well cooled down on the cars, and they're going to be slicking and sliding around possibly for these first few laps until their tires really get heated up. Most of them made pit stops, so they'd have fresh tires, so they should be able to, once they get heated up, be able to have some good traction.
This was the last car to stop. Most improved driver in 1986, Rob Dyson. And I think he won that most improved title by driving solo at Sears Point, California. Yeah, at Sears Point last year, and winning that race up against the best that IMSA had to offer. So Rob Dyson with the number 16 Porsche. There is the number 44 Jaguar. I believe Hurley Haywood has been relieved by John Morton in that machine. Remember, they won at Riverside last year with a tremendous late race charge, taking the lead with just a couple of laps to go.
The Jaguars running third with Rob Dyson running fourth, so they've actually got a position there, even though the Jaguars ahead.
There you see the number 09 car, Steve Durst driving that around. Steve Durst having relieved Mike Brockman. They are in the thick of the hunt. In fact, they're in second place in the Camel Lights race within a race. Steve Durst runs a number of automobile shops up in the New Jersey area. And in fact, that's where his sponsorship, Jiffy Lube, comes from. He is being followed by the 01 car. That's an identical Pontiac Fiero GTP car being driven by Jeff Klein, who whoa, and Klein gets a little squirrely there. Klein holds the record for most career IMSA Camel GT victories with different drivers. Winning with Don Bell this year made Jeff Klein the most cooperative co-driver in IMSA history with some 13 different co-driving victories. So here's to the best co-driver in IMSA series. Here is an interesting looking Porsche 962. That is the Shelton brothers effort. I believe Steve Shelton has now taken the wheel there. Notice the nose piece on it. It looks like one of the old Can-Am cars. Very different from what you see on some of the other Porsche 962s in the field. They're looking for maximum aerodynamic efficiency on that car, and they basically got a cow catcher out in front of that thing. And you see the left side door damage. In fact, that door is popping open on Steve. They took a hit from the wall earlier in the race, and it apparently broke the door lock on the left side. So Steve Shelton is going to have to try to keep that door shut, lest he be waved off the racetrack by IMSA officials for having a dangerous situation. Here is Howard Katz. He is your lights leader in the number 73 Chevrolet-powered Tyga Racer, an English chassis, driven by a non-turbocharged American engine. Steve Phillips started that car. Howard Katz taken over. Here is one of the only American designed and built lights cars. These are known as Fab cars, built by Dave Klim at his shops down in Tucker, Georgia. John Higgins, a part of what's called the presidential team. John Higgins and his co-drivers in a two-car Fab car effort are all presidents of their own companies, and they put up their own money to go racing. They have identically prepared cars powered by Porsche engines. There is the number 9 machine. We saw earlier Lance Jones getting some attention for some heat exhaustion. Bill Jacobson now behind the wheel, a local favorite from West Palm Beach, Florida. That is a Mazda-powered Tyga Racer. Behind him is the red number 63 machine. Jim Downing and John Mafucci. I believe John Mafucci is now behind the wheel, who has been Jim Downing's co-driver for the past 2 years. And Jim has won the Camel Light Series Championship. John Mafucci out of Conyers, Georgia. Folks who watched our coverage of the Miami Grand Prix earlier this year may remember an awkward situation when John left the pits twice in violation of the red and green traffic lights. It turns out that John is colorblind. They had the traffic lights mounted upside down. He couldn't tell the difference between red and green. Following Mafucci on the racetrack is the number 6 Pontiac Fiero. Jim Rothbarth now behind the wheel, having relieved Charles Morgan. That car is identical. In fact, it's a sister car prepared along with the 01 machine being driven by Don Bell and Jeff Klein in this race. Next in line is the number 19, another Mazda-powered Tiger. This is a sister car to the 09 car, the Jacobson-Jones machine. This is being shared by Scott Schubert and Linda Ludeman. Linda, the only female racer in the field today, has taken over for Scott. They are boyfriend and girlfriend. I made the mistake in an earlier broadcast of saying that they were engaged. I thought that was the case. They told me later on they got phone calls from all of their friends who saw the broadcast and wanted to know why they hadn't made a formal announcement. Well, in fact, they hadn't. Here is the number 43 Porsche Fab car. This one being shared by Tim McAdam and Chip Meade. Chip right up there in the lights Camel GT points this year from St. Simon's Island. Chip, a former IndyCar driver, has a real estate business now. And you see him trying to hold off our leader, Darren Brasfield, who wants by right now. Interesting comparison here. Brasfield driving a turbocharged Porsche 962. The Fab car that he just left in his wake has many components from a 962, but the engine is non-turbocharged. We'll be back to check in with our leaders here at West Palm. Plenty of racing still to come. Don't go away.
Palm Beach, Florida, and when Doc Bundy put this shirt on this morning as his t-shirt, he didn't know how prophetic it would be. It is not a laughing matter, Doc. We had to run you down over here where they've pitted all the GTP cars this weekend. Obviously, it's a very frustrating situation.
Well, it's more than frustrating because I just lost my child today. You know, the reactions was way too slow, and I wonder how some of the officials would feel right now had I been laying on the track burning and watching that rather than running over there with some fire extinguishers and reacting to it. It was way too slow reacting. You know, my plan was I motioned for him to come so that I could get the bodywork off and we could get the extinguisher to the root of the problem. And
now tell us exactly what happened because we're replaying the fire right now.
Well, to the best of my knowledge, I come out of 1 and was going to turn 2, and I shifted up. Right when I shifted up, flames come up around my body. And I realized, you know, I'm on fire. So the first thing I did was start looking for a hole in the wall because I figured there had to be extinguishers at the hole in the wall. There wasn't any. I started towards the hole. I tried to get out of the line of traffic. I shut everything down, and then I started getting out of the car. I looked at the hole in the wall. I saw the guy standing there with a fire extinguisher. Nothing happened, so there was probably some indecision because I wanted to get the bodywork off. If you get the bodywork off, then the fire is, you know, exposed. But without somebody helping me with the extinguisher, I couldn't do it, so I went after the extinguisher.
You're okay. You said you were on fire, but physically, Doc Bundy is okay.
I'm fine. I'm just brokenhearted over the situation. You know, you've talked to me several times this year, where it's been very disappointing situations, and this is not the kind of scenario we want to play. We're not like this.
The car, to my way of vision, appears to be a total loss.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's probably true. I don't even want to think about that now because it's a very dear thing to all of us.
We're trying to react to this. We've talked to IMSA. They say they sent the individual members out, the corner workers. They didn't respond. They wouldn't respond. And then they sent the fire truck out, and it did respond. But again, why didn't they respond? They're here to do a job. That's part of their job. If they don't want to do it, don't volunteer.
Exactly. You know, there was questions asked to me, was I afraid of it exploding? Gary, these are fuel cells inside these systems. They're explosion. They protect you from explosion. But you've got to get to the root of the fire. Anybody that deals with fire knows you got to get into it. All you have to do is get up there with an extinguisher and get on the fire.
I want to go back to the first comment you said when you lost your child today. Race drivers have a special feeling for that race car, and that was like your kid out there going up in flames.
Absolutely. It's, you know, that's our newest car, and it's been a wonderful little car so far. And, you know, it was only a matter of time when we got all of our ingredients together, and it would turn from just a good, fast car to a dominant car.
Doc, we thank you for taking the time to come out, collect your thoughts, and visit with us, and we'll follow up on this story as to why the response time was not quicker.
Thank you, Gary. We'll be back.
And thank you, Doc Bundy, in what must be a very trying moment after watching their car burn to a cinder out here on the streets of Palm Beach. During that interview with Doc Bundy, the 09 machine of Steve Durst pitted. I can't believe it was a scheduled stop, and it drops them out of second place in the Camel Lights category. And we've had a stopwatch on Darren Brassfield, who has been lapping in the lead in the 110 range just after he got into the car. That would have qualified him 7th had it been before the race began. Live in West Palm Beach, Florida, in the Camel Grand Prix of Palm Beach. You're in the cockpit of the BF Goodrich Porsche 962, along with Darren Brassfield. Second place is Chip Robinson. Derek Bell having relieved him. Derek is now in the number 14 Porsche. John Morton at the handle of the number 44 Jaguar. Rob Dyson is now in his own car, the number 16 Porsche. And in 5th place, Davy Jones hanging in there for A.J. Foyt in the Columbia Crest Porsche, number 1. The results are in from the Detroit Grand Prix, and Ayrton Senna has won his 2nd straight race. He picked up Monaco as well. Nelson Piquet finishing 2nd, Alain Prost 3rd, Gerhard Berger 4th in the Ferrari, and Nigel Mansell, the pole sitter, coming home 5th. A record performance in terms of speed by Ayrton Senna with that incredible active suspension. Lotus Honda powered racer. Here in Palm Beach, Darren Brassfield has got a Porsche 962 well out front. And Lynn, I've got to wonder if, after stopping so late, that car is going to be able to go the whole way on one stop, as well as the Dyson Racing Porsche. Do you think they can do it?
It's a close call.
Whoa, and we've got 01. That's was involved in the battle for the lead in the Camel Lights class. In fact, they were 5th in that class, and the cars running all very close together. That's Jeff Klein whomping the course worker there in the face with the door as he gets it open, but there is obviously some mechanical problem. He has pulled off into the runoff area. You see the stacks of tires meant to slow down speeding race cars, but it looks as though he's got a terminal problem, although the car is still running. Here's a look at where they stand in lights. Howard Katz and Steve Phillips still lead. Steve Durst is in 2nd place. Howard Cherry in 3rd and John Mafucci in 4th. This was the 5th place car, but he is now off the racetrack, and that opens the door for someone else to move into that 5th spot. This is the leader in class, Howard Katz in the number 73 Chevy-powered Tiger Racer, following John Morton in the 12-cylinder Jaguar, shown 3rd in the racetrack. This is the 2nd to last appearance for this beautiful, pristine Group 44 Jaguar after some 25 years driving MGs and Triumphs and Jaguars for the factory. Bob Tullius Association will end, and the Tom Walkinshaw organization, a native British Jaguar racing team, will campaign 2 cars in IMSA GTP racing next year, we're told.
He's running a very quiet 3rd place right now. He's still on the lead lap. You know, you just never know. We've got a situation where we have 2 cars that could possibly go the distance, as we started to talk about earlier. The number 67 car made a stop late. We've only had 1 caution, which was a very serious long one. But in a street race, there's a distinct possibility for having cautions. And of course, if that would happen in this last half of the race, then we know that we could have the 67 car go the distance. But he may have to come in and get a splash of fuel, and you'd have a situation where the Jaguar could still contend for the lead.
There is the number 16 Porsche. Rob Dyson owns that car. He's racing it with the help of some borrowed bodywork from Al Holbert. And Derek Daly is standing by with his crew chief right now.
I'm with Pat Smith, the crew chief of the Dyson Racing Porsche. Pat, can you make the rest of the race without another stop?
We're not sure. We did not run the tank dry because of the yellow, so we don't know what our fuel economy is. I think what we're going to do is we're going to put Price in at about 11 minutes and let him finish it out. That way we'll have a full tank and we'll have a faster driver in for the last 45, 50 minutes.
After the incident in practice this morning, has the car handled properly?
Car handles perfectly. It's very well, very good.
Okay, so the Dyson crew are still confident. Let's go down to Gary Lee.
Ed Pink is a name that is well recognized from drag racing power plants, and then he moved into Indy cars, and now he has the engine that he's worked on, the Porsche power plant that's in the lead car, and that's the best way to sell engines, buddy, to win a race, right?
Well, absolutely, but we got a long ways to go yet. Right now, things are looking good for us, but we still have 1 hour to go, and we'll see what happens here.
When we say all these 962 Porsches have Porsche power plants, obviously you have your own little tricks that you use to soup them up a bit.
Well, a little bit. The main thing is the engine itself is a very nice engine, and we have our way of maintaining it and doing the things, but the most important thing is to finish the race, and that's what we put all our efforts in, is to making the engine last.
You have so much expertise in drag racing. Have you been able to glean some of that information and that knowledge into this type of motorsports?
Yes, actually, all the experience that we have in drag racing has helped us in the IndyCar field. It's helped us in this particular racing. Even though this is in the IMSA thing, the GTP, this is the best showing that we've had yet, there's a lot involved other than just the engine. There's the drivers and the tires in the car, the track conditions, and just racing luck. I've been very fortunate that we got involved with Jim Busby's team and to be of Goodrich, and they put together a very, very good effort for us to put our engine in.
So if this car drives to victory lane, nobody's going to be any happier than this guy right here with a white mustache, Ed Pink.
Okay, thank you, Gary. And in fact, it would probably be a certain amount of vindication for Darren Brassfield to bring this car for victory lane after he was such an important part of that incredible last lap dash last year. A lot of folks thought maybe Darren had blown it. He had blown an opportunity to win the race, but he is in the catbird seat right now. Now, we've gotten word from out on the race course that the number 4 Ford GTP, being driven by Whitney Gantz at this point, has had a collision with another car, and he has sustained some nose damage. That is the car, not Whitney, and he's going to have to bring it in. You see the front left hopping up in the windstream as Whitney hobbles around. He's going to bring that car in, and they have dragged another nose to the pit wall, and we'll watch the crew go to work when Whitney Gantz brings that car in.
There's a lot of equipment in that front. It isn't just the aerodynamics, but you know, you've got the cooling for the brakes. There's a lot of air that's ducted probably into the driver compartment. It's definitely affecting the handling. So it's pretty quick that they can take that whole nose section off, though, and replace it.
Basically 4 or 5 key points. They'll pull the pins, pop the front end off. If this were a night race, there would be headlights connected. And since there are none on this particular nose piece for a daytime race, it'll be even a quicker stop. Of course, they'll take the opportunity, I would imagine, to add gas to that car. And that might put Whitney in a pretty good position, I would guess, to go the rest of the way without having to make another stop.
He just went by the pits. It looks like he may be staying out, which I find a bit surprising. Because you can tell under braking that it's going to be, there's a lot of movement in the car, but he may feel that he can, that the time that they're going to lose would be too valuable. But I know they've lost a lot of time early on, so I would think that they want a very good race car out there for the remainder of the race.
I would think that's what the crew chief and team manager John Dick is probably saying to Whitney right now. Hey, we're in 15th place. The time we save by staying on the racetrack is nothing compared to the time we're going to lose if we don't get that thing fixed. So Derek Daly is standing by. Let's check with Derek. He is in the Ford pits.
I'm down here in the Scott Pruitt pit. In fact, Scott is going to go into the car if they do make a stop, which I think they will. They are going to replace the nose cone. They have a spare here. We're just going to wait to see when the number 4 car will come in.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Been a good weekend for the Jack Roush team. Actually, good and bad news for the Jack Roush racing team this weekend. Yesterday, the 3 Mustangs put on a fine show in the GTO race. Lynn finished 7th. Tom Gloy won the race in a Jack Roush prepared machine. And then it was reported in the newspapers this morning that their van was stolen from the hotel parking lot here in West Palm Beach. So, hey boss, we won the race, but we can't find our van. At any rate, you see Whitney Gantz continuing to circulate. And they have really got this car hooked up. When they took it out to nearby Moroso Motorsports Park, about a 15-minute drive from here in West Palm Beach, to test this car last week, Scott Pruitt broke the outright track record that was held by a Formula One car. He held that record until another Formula One car, that being Teo Fabi with the Benetton Ford team, brought their car here in pre-Detroit Grand Prix testing and just got under Scott's time at the Moroso Motorsports road course. So this car is capable of some enormous speeds with that big 427 cubic inch engine. Now here you see Derek Bell making his way around in the number 14 Porsche. They are in 2nd place with 98 laps now complete in this 3-hour battle. Derek Bell has won just about all the honors you can shower upon a race driver. The one he is most proud of is his gold medal from the British Racing Drivers Club. Derek told me he accepted that award in the company of such British driving luminaries as Sterling Moss and James Hunt, former world champions both. Whoa, and Derek flicking the rear end of that Porsche 962 out a little bit to help in the steering. And he heads off.
Unfortunately, that's the best way to get around there, but you do that too many times and it does start to hurt the rear tires. But it's the best way around.
Just step on the throttle, crank it around, and swing the tail around.
So you got a little tail swing there. I mean, he may be getting some oversteer. If we continue watching him here and that continues happening through most of the turns, he could be having some oversteer problem where maybe the rear tires are already starting to go away.
It looks as though he is continuing to push.
Yes,
whoa!
Absolutely. He definitely has some oversteer there, which means that those rear tires have gotten slick.
You're saying that's a push, as the drivers called it.
No, oversteer.
Oversteer. I'm sorry, I should let the driver call it. That's understeer is called push, when you can't make the turn. We had a chance to talk with Derek Bell a little bit earlier, and here's what he had to tell us.
It's not easy to win Le Mans 3 times in a row, and I've won it the last 2 years now. I had no grand ambition for records. All I wanted to do was win the next race. But when you find yourself in a position where you've got 5 wins, X has got 6, I'd love to have a crack at trying to win it next year. At the same time, I'd like to try and win the Daytona 24 Hours for a 3rd time in a row. It was a great achievement. I think I've won more. I think I've won as many 24-hour races as X now. He's won 6 Le Mans and 1 Daytona. I've won 5 Le Mans and 2 Daytonas. And as I say, I'm not in racing to win records, but I must admit, when it's there with a fighting chance, I'd love to have a go at trying to win it next year.
Well, that was obviously an answer to the question, Derek, are you too old to keep up this kind of stuff? But I was noticing as we listened to Derek speak, Lynn, that bodywork seems to be getting a little bit more loose, and it's dangerously close, that is, to his left front tire.
Well, it's sort of moved out a little bit more, but it doesn't seem like it's not moving around much or shaking around much, but he's able to stick his nose right in there and pass a car or so and get around pretty cleanly. But I think that explain a little further about oversteer, since you did have that little conversation. It's when the rear tires break loose first and the rear end of the car wants to come around and you lose traction in the rear. So that's basically called oversteer, where you have actually an oversteering situation.
Drivers call that loose. Push is understeer. Oversteer is loose.
Got it, Tom.
Okay.
Got it, Tom.
Okay, 1 hour to go here in this 3-hour race. Derek Bell continues to make his way up through the crowd. Whoa, who can I get around here?
It's so hard with those light cars because they get in the middle of the track and you don't know whether to go right or left just to get by them. It makes it very difficult.
Here is Darren Brassfield once again on the lead. Derek Bell doing everything in his considerable powers to get back on the fenders of Darren Brassfield. And we'll be back to see how well he does as we continue with the Grand Prix of Palm Beach. finish line. We're not sure exactly what the reason for that is, but this flagman, starter Jim Sidley, is showing a yellow flag. Now, we don't see any cars in a precarious position on the start-finish line, and as that yellow flag waves, Rob Dyson dives into the pits in the number 16 Porsche. He's going to let Bryce Cobb get in to finish the race. Let's get down to Derek Daly.
Okay, the Dyson car is in. There is a driver change being made. Rob Dyson comes out. Bryce Cobb does go in. They take full advantage of this yellow flag. I just spoke to Pat Smith, the crew chief. There is a problem with the brakes on the car. They don't know what it is. They've got the wheels off. The crewman on the right rear now says he knows what's wrong. There is a problem on the right rear of the car.
Okay, we'll watch
shouting, trying to tell the other people that there is something wrong with the right rear. They're trying to get the tools. So the Dyson pit is in a bit of a panic at the moment, trying to get this brake problem sorted.
Well, it's certainly busy. As you can see, the Ford has pulled in front, and Whitney Gantz is getting a new nose piece on that car. In fact, Whitney has climbed out, and Scott Pruitt will get back in to take that car the rest of the way. Also pitting is the number 14 Lowenbrow Porsche. Derek Bell will apparently stay in that car. It looks like they added some ice to the driver cool suit compartment, and he is once again back out on the racetrack. But the problem is for the number 16 Porsche of Bryce Cobb. They've taken off the nose, and they are working on the front right suspension, it would appear, while the Ford car is working on its nose. There you see the Dyson Cobb car. And Derek Daly, have you got any more on that situation?
The problem they have is the right rear brake, as we said. The mechanics are down under the car at the moment. They're going to change the right rear brake caliper. We can actually see the fluid coming from the caliper, so that is definitely going to cost them time, as the pace car, in fact, has gone by. So they will go down one lap, trying to change this right rear leaking brake caliper.
Okay, thank you very much. Meanwhile, our leader is in the pit there. You see the number 67 Porsche. It looks like Darren Brassfield will get back out, and the faster guy Bob Wallach will get in. You see the cleaning agent on the windshield, sprayed and left to do its work as they finish work on the tires and the gas vent. Now it'll be cleaned off, and the master himself, Bob Wallach, the master of street racing, will get back into that car and hopefully take it the rest of the way. The Jaguar is also in the pits. You'll see it just in front of the BF Goodrich pits as they pull out. There you go. And it looks as though, whoa, a little problem there for the Jaguar crew. And John Morton has gotten out. Hurley Haywood is back into that car one other again. A.J. Foyt's car remains in the pits, along with the leader in the lights class, the 73 car. Howard Katz and Steve Phillips has made its change and is back out. A.J. Foyt will get back into his machine. You see Davy Jones leaning in the driver's side door there to help fasten the belts. And I would think between a svelte Davy Jones and a somewhat less than svelte A.J. Foyt, there is some adjustment that has to be made to those belts. Nevertheless, the door is closed, and A.J. Foyt will take the car back out once a mechanic gets out of the left side door, where no doubt they are adding ice to that cool suit reservoir as well. And there is A.J. Foyt in his number 1 Porsche pulling out, and the Dyson car with Bryce Cobb at the wheel remains in the pits. This is a tragic development for Dyson Racing as they try to get that right rear brake fixed and get them back out. But apparently a sticky brake is going to keep them there, and what a weekend it has been for Dyson Racing. Bringing this wonderfully prepared Porsche here, getting set, getting a good qualifying time, and then just having the back torn off of it in a pre-race warm-up accident this morning. With the help of Al Holbert, they were able to get a new wing on the back of the car, and they were running very well indeed, until this problem with a brake line has them up on the jacks for an interminable amount of time. Well, we're still under caution at Palm Beach, and we'll be right back. Palm Beach, and a rash of pit stops have now been completed. You're watching the number 14 Lowenbrow Porsche, where Chip Robinson has relieved Derek Bell. But after that pit stop, the passenger side door where they were working on the cool suit reservoir, perhaps the electronics, was left ajar, and it has not closed. And we're told there is some concern about whether the officials are going to bring Chip Robinson back in to get that door fastened down securely. The car looks in pretty good shape as he goes by. I don't detect the door open noticeably, so perhaps he's been able to jar it closed and get it fastened. Well, yeah, you can see there is a brake there, but it doesn't appear to be too much of one. The door is sitting ajar as Chip Robinson makes his way around. We now have 105 laps complete. Chip is being shown in 3rd place on the racetrack behind the number 67 BF Goodrich Porsche, in which you presently sit, courtesy of our in-car camera. Bob Wallach once again behind the wheel, and if you watch the way Bob Wallach drove in the early hour of this race, you won't want to go away, because he is no doubt going to put on another show. In 2nd place is the Jaguar 12-cylinder machine. being driven now by Hurley Haywood. Gary Lee is standing by on pit road with an interview.
Here on the pit wall with Darren Brassfield, who was leading the race when the yellow came out. He came in for the pit stop. Bob Wallach took over the driving chores. And what brought out that full course yellow?
There was a car that had stalled on the track in a critical part where there was no escape road, so they couldn't push it away. And it brought out the yellow so the tow truck could come out and move it.
How oppressive is it out there?
It is real slippery. I came in because, you know, Bob has freshened up and our cool suit has failed. And I had it on, so it was like just wearing saran wrap around me. And when I did stop on that caution, it heat soaked me, where I got dizzy, so I just came in and turned it back over to Bob.
So right now he is running without a cool suit?
He is running without a cool suit.
One tough job in store for Bob Wallach, and also standing by the man who just a week ago won his 5th Le Mans championship, one Derek talking to the other Derek.
Okay, I'm here with Derek Bell. Derek, running in 3rd position at the moment. Is your car good enough to make a challenge for the lead?
I said, well, BF Goodrich's car has something we haven't got, that's for sure. I mean, they're driving incredibly well. It's like an ice rink out there. It slides all over the road. And we happen to pump the brakes, unfortunately, every time we want to brake. Otherwise, you go straight to the floor, which Chip had in the end of his first stint, which isn't very pleasant. But apart from that, our car's good. I mean, I felt I could challenge, but I didn't realize I'd already been in there an hour.
Derek, you're sweating quite a bit here. How physically difficult is it in this car, and do you have a cool suit?
The cool suit quit after half distance. I guess my body's too hot for it. And you know this yourself. You can easily run out the ice. And so it was getting pretty hot towards the end, but I feel in incredible condition at the moment.
That's good. The Le Mans winner last weekend, trying to win the race here at West Palm Beach.
And I'm glad to see Derek looking so chipper. Last year after Le Mans, we all turned up in Mid-Ohio for a Camel GT race, and having won his 4th Le Mans, Derek had been celebrating, I think, right until the time he got off the airplane. Looks a lot better now. We'll be right back to West Palm. We've been under yellow for about 10 minutes as the 01 Camel Lights car of Don Bell and Jeff Klein is pushed to a safe position on the racetrack. We have no indication just yet as to when we will get back underway. Meanwhile, Gary Lee has cornered Davy Jones down in the pits. Gary, how's Davy doing?
Well, Bob, it's obviously a thrill to have this much horsepower on this small of a track, but throw in the fact that we have no brakes on car number 1, and that's got to be just a little too much.
The Columbia Crest winery car was just going really well. We were happy. AJ did a good first stint. And, you know, the brakes just went away on me. Whether it's a brake leak or overheating, we're not quite sure. But I was having to, you know, lift really early and downshift to slow the car down.
You also had some trouble with the power plant?
Yes, we had a misfire since the beginning, over 8,000 RPM. So we're just trying to hang in there and do the best job we can and try not to get off line at all, because it's very slippery in the marbles.
Well, during a racing career that has spanned over 30, 35 years, Supertex has driven a lot of cars without brakes, but primarily on dirt tracks and sprint cars and the Silver Crown cars. It's not easy to drive one of these on a road course like this without brakes.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Lynn, we're hearing more and more about cool suits starting to go away on people.
Well, I tell you, they really work. This was yesterday in the GTO race was the first time that I wore the full suit, which is both a cap and a vest, and it really did work. But the problem is the capacity of the ice chest only lasts about an hour and 20 minutes. And so you've either got to, even if we set the temperature up higher so that it would not use as much water, but it still didn't work. It only has about an hour and 20 to an hour 30 minutes duration. If it doesn't work, then all of that water that's running through the tubes starts to heat up as your body heats up, and then it's like being in a sauna. It's actually hotter than if you didn't have one at all. So it's a risk, but if it works, let me tell you, it is a beautiful experience. I mean, it really makes you able to concentrate on driving. I had a couple of other little idiosyncrasies. We had some fumes coming in the car, and it started to bother me when the cool suit malfunctioned. When I came in and made a pit stop, they put ice back in, and I started to cool down. All of a sudden, those things weren't bothering you anymore, so you can really concentrate a lot better when your body is cool. We have have anything down in the pits, maybe explaining anything about that?
Not just yet, but in the meantime, in the pits, A.J. Foyt has once again come in and back out again, and we're being told that the problem is a brake caliber problem. Meanwhile, starter Jim Sidley has green flag in hand, and Bob Wallach is once again out front as we go to green flag conditions here at West Palm. Behind him, the Jaguar of Hurley Haywood, making his 170th start in IMSA Camel GT competition and getting a little bit loose there as he hangs it out. Hurley Haywood, one of only 2 men, Phil Curran is the other, who have started a Camel GT race in each and every year of the International Motorsports Association's existence. An image there, you saw the brake problem as A.J. Foyt literally crippled himself to a stop there, let the leaders go by because he just does not have a healthy race car at this point. No brakes on the right front, we're told. Meanwhile, a battle goes on between the first and second place cars. This is Bob Wallach up against Hurley Haywood.
We have 2 fresh drivers here running with a, really inspired now. They're in the last part of the race, the last portions of the race, and they're both fresh. And so I think you'll see the Jaguar try to make the charge. But the way that 962 has been running in the BFG car, it's going to be difficult I think, to make that challenge.
Here's a recap of the 2 yellow flags that we've had. One's for that incredible fire that engulfed the Chevrolet Corvette, and the second one, the most recent, for the stalled Pontiac Fiero Camel Lights car of Jeff Klein and Don Bell. But only 2 yellows. Last year they were saying, whoa, Bob Wallach gets it all the way around. Oh, what a mistake.
Yeah, what I think possibly could have happened there is that there's a white painted line on the outside, and he sort of went right to get it wide. Boy, he just about collected in the 14 car as he got back onto the track.
Wallach came back onto the track, and he split the 2 cars behind him getting back on, but Chip Robinson obviously had more speed and was able to duck inside of him. Here we'll see it in replay, Lynn.
I'm trying to watch to see if he hit that line, or if possibly it could have been a line that was, no.
He hit the wall.
He hit the wall.
Hit the outside wall, setting up for the turn.
But there's a white painted line that goes down there that you just don't have the traction. And it may have been a line that he could have used earlier, but then he gets out there and the track conditions could have changed.
And we have a new leader, our 5th leader of the day. This is Hurley Haywood of the Jaguar. What an ironic coincidence that 2 of the 3 cars involved in that incredible last lap battle last year, the BF Goodrich Porsche and the Group 44 Jaguar, are battling in the late stages here in Palm Beach. And because of that guffaffle by Bob Wallach hitting the wall as he headed into the hairpin at turn 1, Hurley Haywood and the Jaguar are in position, perhaps, to win their 2nd race on the Camel GT season. Another ironic note, with only 1 more race, that at Watkins Glen on July 5th, to be the farewell appearance of this Group 44 Jaguar. They won at Riverside. If they could win here in a street race at Palm Beach, Florida, what a parting shot it would be for Bob Tullius and his Group 44 organization.
Bob, it's possible when he made that spin that he could have flat spotted the tires. It was enough of a come around that it's possible that he did. But if he doesn't come in the first lap or 2, then I would say he was lucky enough. He didn't go completely at 360, so he may have saved it. Or he didn't flat spot the tires. If you flat spot the tires in a spin like that, you get a thump feeling as you go, and you know that you do not have even traction. It upsets the handling really miserably, so you've got to come in and replace them.
There is the number 67 car of Bob Wallach. He'll be trying to make tracks and get back up there now. He's in 3rd place, trailing Chip Robinson in another Porsche, and Hurley Haywood up front of the Jaguar. There's the view that Bob Wallach has of Chip Robinson as they head under the bridge and across the start-finish line and down once again, get hard on the binders as they get ready to go into turn 1.
Was the occurrence of the incident. The other thing I was wondering is he said that they had that boost problem, and he'd had an extra charge of power that he wasn't expecting to have while he was on the brakes. I don't know, but looked more of just the case of hitting that wall and hitting that lack of traction there.
Let's take an in-car look at exactly what happened to Bob Wallach as he head down the front straightaway and all of a sudden found himself, like you say, Lynn, maybe with too much power as he lines up along that outside wall and just gets too close and bang, tags it right there.
Just think that he lost traction on that right side, got too close to the wall. Now here, you've got the Lowenbrow car coming in. Wallach's, finally got his gear and wants to go, but it just about tagged the Lowenbrow car because you have to come across as you come out of turn 1. You're way over on the right side. You've got to get over to the left to set up for turn 2, which is a right-hander. So that was the classic line. Chip had every right to be where he was in doing that, but Wallach almost tagged him there.
I believe he almost plowed straight into A.J. Foyt, who was following the 14 car. I don't know how he missed the number 1 Porsche right behind him. Derek Daly is down on pit road. Derek, what have you got for us?
I want to expand a little piece on this cool suit. John Morton here, driver of the lead place Jaguar at the moment, has it on. It's like a vest. It goes around the front and the rear. These two tubes then come and plug into a box just like this, which is literally a cooler. It's got a pumping system in it. The cooler box is full of iced water, so as the pump goes, it will pump the cool water through these tubes in through the vest. Now the problem is, as you've heard some of the drivers say, the vest has failed. Instead of becoming a cool suit, if it fails, the water that's already in the suit gets up to body temperature, and then it becomes a heater.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Yes. Now we're wondering whether, in fact, Bob Wallach lost that position. As you see, a local yellow being shown. There is no yellow at the start-finish. Wallach is off the course. Bob Wallach in the 67 Porsche. Oh, there you see the car with extensive left front damage, pulled off into the runoff area. At one of those turns, he must have hit the wall incredibly hard as you see him walking away from the remains of that car. And that is a terrible turnaround for this team. I was about to say that we're trying to get our scoring straightened out. We thought that perhaps Bob Wallach was so far out in front that despite his spin, that he was still in the lead, and that Hurley Haywood had in fact not taken the lead away. But before we could get that problem sorted out, Bob Wallach has parked the car, and it's obvious he will not be back in. So your leader is officially the 44 Jaguar of Hurley Haywood as Bob Wallach ends his day. Oh, what a sad irony. Well, of the three competitors in that titanic struggle on the last lap last year, one remains. This car, the number 44, Group 44 Jaguar out of Winchester, Virginia. In second place is the number 14 Porsche with Chip Robinson doing the driving. Bob Wallach was shown officially as third. That position will now be taken by the number 16 Porsche of Price Cobb. And in fifth place, the number 62 Porsche of Tom and Steve Shelton out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So Porsches are lining up in second, third, fourth, and fifth behind the Jaguar of Hurley Haywood. What a way to celebrate his 170th IMSA start. If he could just hang on and clinch a victory here for Bob Tullius. There is some of the debris on the racetrack, and in fact, there is a wheel still out there on the racetrack, complete with tire. We'll have a replay of what happened. Here's Bob Wallach entering turn two, and he hits the outside. Oh, now we lost our camera connection just as he hit that wall. A tremendous 1-2 punch suffered by Bob Wallach, and big parts of that BF Goodrich Porsche are right out there at the exit to turn two. Well, we'll be back to get that mess cleaned up and get the thing back underway here at Palm Beach in just a moment. Where the Jaguar of Hurley Haywood is out front, but not without problems. First, let's take a look once again at what happened to Bob Wallach just moments ago. Lynn?
Well, he's coming out of the hairpin here and then getting set to go into turn two. And I'm watching because this was an area that yesterday didn't really break up, but it got awfully slick. He came in, it looks like he early apexed that, hit the inside of the wall, and I don't think, just looks like he early apexed that and hit the inside wall, and then of course that just slugged him right out into the outside wall. He may have had a tire problem because of the spin. Maybe he did flat spot the tires and was trying to overdrive it. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to presume and second guess Mr. Bob Wallach right now, but at the same time you can see that he early apexed that, and it's not an early apex turn. So he did, for some reason, unknown reason, he did that.
That was my thinking, Lynn. Maybe in that spin he did some damage somehow to his suspension, steering tires, what have you, but obviously Bob Wallach suffering a bad problem there. Here is Hurley Haywood meandering around in the Group 44 Jaguar. He is in the lead. Now we're getting reports that there may be a problem with that car, and Gary Lee is down in the pits.
I think it's only appropriate we call it a Jag because the cat stalks, and that's exactly what the Jag has done all season. If a favorite falls by the wayside, the cat is right there. Now, we have just been told that no matter what happens, the Jag will receive the Michelob Excellence Award for the crew for preparing this car for this race weekend. But Bob Tullius, what is the problem now with the brake?
Well, I don't think there's any real problem at the moment. He's turning 8s and 9s, and they're pretty good. Morton reported that the brake pedal was a little low, but obviously they're stopping pretty good.
Well, obviously the final season for the Jag under Group 44, and right now there has to be a big smile on your face.
Well, as it so often has, it's boiled down to Al Hobart and Group 44, or in this case, it's two very good friends racing against each other. Chip and Hurley drove together last year very often, and they are very, very good friends, and it's going to be interesting before it's over.
But with a lack of horsepower, because you're non-turbocharged, you really have to have that discipline to allow the race to come back to you, which is exactly what's happened here.
Well, it always does, particularly on a hot day. The hotter the day, the more the horsepower the Porsches lose, and he's going to have a tough time catching Hurley, because Hurley's got just as many as he started out with, and he's a possessed man at this point.
Are you happy being up here in the scoring stand? Would you rather be on the race course?
Well, I'm going to be on the race course at Watkins Glen, Gary, so come see us.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Right.
Bob Tulius.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Hurley Haywood is anything but a shoe-in at this point. His lead is but about 3.5 seconds over Chip Robinson in that number 14 Porsche. I hate to keep harping on the irony theme, but when that 14 car comes up behind Hurley Haywood, it will be a replay in reverse of what we saw at Riverside, California, where the 44 car ran down the number 14 from behind to win that race. Right now, Chip Robinson, as Bob Tullius pointed out, good friend of Hurley Haywood. They drove together on the Jaguar crew last year. The Jag finished third in that great last lap battle. Hurley Haywood and Brian Redmond co-driving to that effort. And right now, Hurley Haywood would like nothing better than to keep Chip Robinson in his mirrors as the minutes continue to tick away here at West Palm Beach.
Well, this is certainly no racetrack to have any brake problems, and the Jag couldn't be turning 1 minute 8 seconds, which is what we just got him at, if he did. Now, it may be that the pedal's going down, and they may have to pump it a little bit, but as long as they've got brakes, then you know, they have to have brakes to turn that 108.
There you see the time remaining. We're into the last 30 minutes of the race, and Chip Robinson is doing what he can to run down Hurley Haywood. Boy, a moment ago when we saw the remains of that Bob Wallach crash, you noticed that one of those concrete New Jersey barriers, they're called, that lines the course, those things are 10 feet long, 3 feet high, and weigh 9,000 pounds. Bob Wallach hit it, it looked like, on the seam between two of them, and he moved them both. That is a real impact. There is the 73 car. They're running in second place right now in the Camel Lights class. Howard Katz and Steve Phillips getting a good run today. We're getting a report now that this car is suffering what appears to be an engine misfire, and they are getting closed up from behind by the 09 car of Steve Durst and Mike Brockman. So the battle is not over yet in the Camel Lights class. Presently being shown as the leader in that class is the number 42 Porsche Fab car of John Higgins and Howard Cherry. No word thus far on the interval, but there you see the Steve Durst Mike Brockman car that has made at least 3 pit stops that I have observed from our announced position high above pit road here. So if he can move back into contention in class, that'll be quite a driving story for those two men. Great effort being put in by Steve Durst and Mike Brockman. Third place in Camel Lights right now. And steadily closing up. We'll watch this battle now and see if they can put the clamps on the number 73 Chevy-powered Tygo racer directly in front. Steve Durst was in that car at our last report. Under braking into the hairpin one more time, making the turn onto the long front straightaway. And here is where the Pontiac Fiero shines best, where it has a chance to use its horsepower advantage. Down the front straight they come, and yes, indeed, as they go by our announced position here, that Chevy is really sounds like it's running on about 3 cylinders, really popping and sputtering. There you see the pass, and moves Steve Durst into second place in class. Steve Phillips and Howard Katz into third in Camel Lights. We'll be back to pick up the action up at the front of the pack as Hurley Haywood and John Higgins lead their respective classes. Beach, where Hurley Haywood takes the snarling 12-cylinder Jaguar down into the hairpin, gets on the binders, hard left turn, and behind him you see the number 14 Porsche of Chip Robinson as the Porsche closes in on the Jaguar, Lynn.
Yeah, we've been watching number 14, and it's turning about a second a lap faster. Turned a minute 7. Again, qualifying times, just a hair off of qualifying times. So definitely closing. Now traffic could become an issue here, but they're very, very close.
You see the graphic on Hurley Haywood's glittering career in IMSA Camel GT Racing. Behind them, the number 43 Fab car of Chip Mead, and Tim McAdam was inserted between Chip Robinson and Hurley Haywood, but now Robinson puts the 43 car down another lap and has a clear track as he moves in on the Jaguar. Good look there at that MMG Racing Porsche Fab car.
Chip Robinson may be a little more inspired driver than normal as well, not only because they're good friends, but I think back at Riverside, which was the first chance I had to work with ESPN on covering the IMSA Camel GT races, and even though John Morton was driving the Jaguar at the time, but you know, there was that past late in the race where Chip ended up finishing second, and I think, I don't want to say that he wants to try to retrieve that, but I think, you know, this is, I have a feeling there's probably a little fire in his eyes right now as he's trying to dial in and reel in the Jaguar here.
It has been a frustrating year, even though he did win the race at Daytona with his co-drivers Al Holbert, Derek Bell, and Al Unser Jr. Chip Robinson has been plagued by a series of mechanical breakdowns very late in the race. He was leading at Sebring for 11 of the 12 hours, actually 10 and a half of the 12 hours, when they blew a turbocharger. The crew went through a frantic 8-minute turbocharger change, got a big round of applause from the crowd who watched them go at it like surgeons, but they weren't able to do any better than second. Later on, they were caught at Riverside after another mechanical problem slowed them down. So there hasn't been a victory for Chip since that win in the 24 hours of Daytona. Al Holbert has taken the team car to a win. He did so most recently at Lime Rock, which we saw here on ESPN. But Chip would very much like to vindicate himself with a victory here, driving with Derek Bell at Palm Beach. Now there is the Shelton brothers Porsche, I believe, right in front of them as Hurley Haywood tries to put Steve Shelton another lap down. And it appears he will do it on the straightaway, and he does. Shelton brothers obviously having a little engine problem with that machine.
This is where the strategy of the traffic, how you work the traffic, can make such a difference. When you know you have somebody running the same lap times that you are, it just, the strategy makes an incredible difference.
Here's your leader now. We understand that Chip Mead has stepped out of the 43 car. He is now in this car. A team effort to get Chip Mead back into the battle in Camel Light's driver points. He led that as of about 4 races ago. He has now been dropped into 4th place behind Don Bell, Jeff Klein, and Jim Downing. Downing is having his problems today as Mead leads the race. Don Bell and Jeff Klein are already out of the race, so Chip Mead is in a good position to gather up some driver points if he can keep that Fab car out in front.
Did Chip Mead start in another car or race in another car?
I don't think he started the other car, which raises an interesting point, because in IMSA racing, you can only score points in the car in which you start. We'll get an interval here on our leaders. But since Chip did not step into the other car, hopefully, he can score points by driving the 42 car. He was entered in 43, he's driving the 42, and we have confirmation that Chip Mead can score because he did not drive that 43 car. There you see the gap back to Steve Durst, driving that 09 Pontiac Fiero. Durst trying to run down the Fab car, and a good battle between championship caliber drivers here. Chip Mead, we mentioned, has IndyCar experience. Steve Durst has been around race cars in the IMSA series for a good 12 years now.
That interval between the lights class was that 3.7 seconds that we just showed, so it's also a very closely contested light race as well as a closely contested overall Camel GT race.
2 good races in 1 here at West Palm. We hope you're enjoying it here on ESPN as we watch Chip Mead trying to hold on his lead. The sister car, the number 43 car, being driven by Howard Cherry, or perhaps Tim McAdam is still in that car, has pulled onto pit road. They open the passenger side door, and the driver gesticulating wildly toward what I think was one of the electronics boxes. At any rate, he is still on pit road as his teammate makes his way down into the hairpin one more time around the slower competitor. But you can see that the gap is narrowed to about a second, I would think, at these speeds, as Steve Durst continues to reel in Chip Mead. St. Simons Island, Georgia. Chip Mead owns a real estate developing firm down there. Meanwhile, Steve Durst, as I mentioned earlier, owns a string of car repair shops out of Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Steve Durst, in fact, is 5th in points, just behind Chip Mead. So you're watching a battle in driving style and in the Camel Lights Driver Championship. Now we're back up on the lead. There is Hurley Haywood making his way around, and you see that the gap back to Chip Robinson in the number 14 Porsche has also been reduced. So we're going to be watching back and forth between two great races for the lead. Once more down the short chute, hard braking for the tight left-hand turn.
It seems to me that we have some drama set up similar to last year. Maybe not as many cars in contention, but we still have very close positions here being contested for the end of the race.
We'll clock the interval for you. There goes Hurley Haywood, and here comes Chip Robinson. 3.5 seconds.
3.7 on the Camel Lights, 3.5 on the GTPs.
It's going to be tough to choose which race to show you here. Maybe we can split screen. No, I don't want to suggest that. I'll get in trouble next. Hurley Haywood out of Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. Was once the only driver to have won both the Daytona 24 Hours and the Le Mans 24 Hours in the same year. More recently, Al Holborn and his Lowenbrow crew have been able to do that. We'll be back to see if Chip Robinson can close in on Haywood just after this message. Watching the battle for the Camel Lights Championship here at Palm Beach. There you see the number 42 Porsche-powered Fab car of Chip Mead. A.J. Foyt rides between he and his pursuer, Steve Durst, in the number 09 Pontiac Fiero. And here's an incident that happened just moments ago in the first turn. Watch this. Whoa. You got to take the whole car together around the turn. Let's see, I believe that's the number 9 car. That's the Bill Jacobson Lance Jones car. We saw Lance Jones earlier overcome by heat when I got out of the car. Now his problem is the car keeps falling apart under him.
That was incredible because, I mean, you know the nose is going to drop a little bit when you go under braking, but I think whether the pins came loose or whatever, but it totally just came disconnected.
Well, so much for aerodynamics. There you see the battle continuing lights, and here comes the leader overall. So Hurley Haywood will now try to put a lap on the lights leader, Chip Mead. Hurley's got Chip Robinson coming up right behind him, and look at the traffic.
The traffic is going to make the difference, and I mean, I don't know if the track's breaking up too badly, but I mean, Hurley has got to be able to make some aggressive moves right now in traffic. He can't afford to be conservative.
Gary Lee is standing by with Chip Robinson's teammate in the pits.
Well, the gap has closed between first and second in the prototypes, but looks can be deceiving. It's a lot easier to catch a driver than pass a driver, and you say you guys have to pump those brakes, so perhaps there may be an advantage right now with the Jag.
Well, the advantage the Jag has is a normally aspirated engine, whereas we have a turbo, and they have instant power. They come out of the hairpin bends, and they just put their foot down, and away they go. We have to sit there and wait.
Guess what? As you're talking about the advantage that the Jag has, your teammate just took the lead.
Oh, did he? Good lad. I like it. We just took the lead. Hey.
So much for turbo lag.
I love you.
That's a first on ESPN.
Hey, break it up, you guys. We got a race going on here. Chip Robinson has taken over first place from Hurley Haywood. There you see Haywood making his way around. He'll try to get his lead back. A.J. Foyt follows. And now behind them is your leader. Whoa, we've got a smoker coming in. That is the Shelton Brothers team with that unique front end. Lots of smoke coming out the back end of that car.
I just noticed as the Jaguar was coming through that turn that it was just all over the road. So it looks like that the Jaguar may have had some major problem that happened because you don't make up a 3-second lead.
We have a replay of what happened at 62. You see he's already got something leaking there. Looks like maybe oil smoke coming out the back. Steve Shelton and Tom Shelton out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And a big cheer goes up as Chip Robinson goes by in the lead with Hurley Haywood hot on his tail. A big crowd here at West Palm Beach cheering for great racing out on the streets of their city. There you see Haywood making his way around in the Jaguar. While that lead has changed, Chip Mead has opened his lead once again in the lights category over Steve Durst. So we'll keep our eye on that situation while we watch the battle for the overall championship.
I'm still baffled why that pass happened so quickly, but the other thing I was thinking is that, you know, we have to use first gear on this particular track because it's so tight, and it's very hard. It's very hard to hit that first gear every time. After a while, I mean, first gear is not one that we always use in most of the race circuits, and so after 3 hours or close to 3 hours of racing, it's possible we just didn't catch first, didn't get that shift.
I'm thinking it's also very, very hot inside those cars, and that does something to your perception and your thinking, doesn't it?
Well, it It does, but I think Hurley's very professional, and at this point, I don't know if the cool suit's working. We haven't gotten a report with them that it hasn't, but even though there was some traffic there, I just can't believe he would have had a break in concentration or that the heat would have made the difference. I think it was more of maybe a mechanical thing, or he might have missed a shift.
We are 135 laps into this race. We are less than 15 minutes to go, so that tells us that this race has already gone a good deal farther than last year's. 2 long caution flags are all that we've seen all day long. Attrition has been fairly heavy, however. The most spectacular departure being that of Cyril van der Merwe and Doc Bundy, whose car exploded in flames on the backstretch and burned to the ground basically before that fire could be extinguished. If you're with us, you heard Doc Bundy say, "I feel like I lost a child today." At any rate, excuse me.
I was thinking that as I watched that, the sick feeling, I really even couldn't say anything because we do get very attached to our cars, and I think that the instinctive reaction that Doc had to run and get that fire out, it was saving the car feeling as opposed to anything else.
And in his 3rd year on the Camel GT circuit, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of investment in time, technology, and hardware. There is the battle for the lead. Chip Robinson has taken it from Hurley Haywood. Can Hurley get it back in the time remaining? We'll see. We're enjoying our exclusive ESPN coverage of the International Motorsports Association Grand Prix of Palm Beach. Our coverage is being brought to you by BF Goodrich TA Radials. We make your car perform. By Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer. And by Dodge, setting new standards of performance. We have officially 10 minutes to go. 10 minutes in this 3-hour battle. Chip Robinson is our leader. The gap in Camel Lights class between Chip Mead and Steve Durst is now widened to 28 seconds, so things look pretty comfortable right there for Steve. Meanwhile, we saw moments ago as Steve Shelton pulled his crippled 962 into the pits. With apparently an engine problem. Gary Lee has more on that story from the pits.
It looked as though the Shelton Racing Porsche was fogging for mosquitoes, but Steve, actually, you were not in the car, but you were standing here. What's the problem?
It's developed an oil leak, Gary. It looks like it was a result of maybe Tom made contact with a Camel Light car when he's trying to pass him, so we think it's related to that, and it's a bit of a disappointment.
Obviously, this track is so narrow, there is no room for a mistake. Plus, with the breakup we had yesterday, it's very slick out there, which even narrows down that groove.
Oh, yeah, it's very slippery out there. I told Tom when I got out, you know, you have to stay in the racing line. There's no passing outside the racing line whatsoever.
So the day is over for the Shelton Racing Porsche with 10 minutes to go. Let's go back to the booth.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Tough break there for Steve and Tom Shelton as we watch A.J. Foyt circulating. They have overcome their brake problem, and 52-year-old A.J. Foyt has that car in 4th place on the racetrack. Derek Daly is standing around in Foyt's pits.
I'm here in A.J. Foyt's pit, and although he's running in 4th position, you remember the brake problem we showed you that the Dyson car had earlier on? Well, A.J. Foyt has a similar problem, has no rear brakes on this car, has had no brakes for quite some time. So he is comfortable in his 4th place, but I doubt if he can make any challenge from here.
Okay, thank you, Derek, and we'll watch that situation develop. Great driving job by A.J. Foyt, no matter where he finishes today. Meanwhile, with Foyt in 3rd place, the battle up front continues to rage. There is less than a second separating Chip Robinson from Hurley Haywood. There you see the battle continuing. In fact, I guess it's about a half second right now. So the momentum shifts once again, and it's amazing the way the crowd gets to his feet each time this battle comes down the front straightaway. There you see Chip Robinson, a teammate last year to Hurley Haywood, now doing battle on separate teams here in the Camel GT. Robinson new with Al Holbert's championship-winning Porsche team. Haywood finishes out the string with Bob Tullius and Jaguar. Keep in mind, there has been no solo victory thus far in this car for Chip Robinson, who won his first victory of any kind in Camel GTP racing at the end of last year in the Daytona finale in Daytona Beach, Florida, just up the coast from where we are today in West Palm Beach.
Well, we seem to have lost a little bit of the drama with the Camel Lights. So that gap just seems to be continuing to increase. I think it's about 30 seconds down between 1st and 2nd. But it's certainly, I think, intensifying here with our contention here for the lead between the Jaguar and between the Porsche, and it looked like, I'm sorry, I got that one mixed up because I thought it was the Porsche there up front. But the traffic could still come into play, even though there's a second or a second and a half split between the Lowenbrow 962 and the Jaguar. You get into traffic, that second can be eaten up awfully quick.
You saw right there as they made their way around the number 6 Pontiac Fiero of Jim Rothbarth and Charles Morgan. But both Chip Robinson and Hurley Haywood were able to make the pass cleanly. And the battle continues, just a couple of car lengths. Except for the front straightaway, are these two cars basically on an equal basis in terms of performance?
Well, no, actually, when they're going through the turns and in traffic, the Jaguar does have that advantage because it's normally aspirated. It has more torque. Really, one offsets the other. I think the Jaguar has the advantage in traffic and in the tight turns. The Porsche has a little bit of an advantage on the straightaway. So one out maybe offsets the other.
Once more down the front straightaway, and once more the crowd here in Palm Beach comes to its feet as Chip Robinson leads Hurley Haywood in the closing minutes of the Palm Beach Grand Prix. And then Hurley Haywood, and the time remaining, time for perhaps 4 more laps of this 1.6-mile West Palm Beach Grand Prix race course. And Chip Robinson out of Old Bridge, New Jersey wants nothing more than to keep that Jaguar in his mirrors. Good racing all day long in this 3-hour battle for Camel GTP cars and the Camel Lights machines as well. It looks as though Chip Meade from St. Simon's Island is going to pick up a victory in Lights, as Lynn pointed out moments earlier. He has a substantial lead now over Steve Durst, running in second place in that class.
That's really an outstanding performance for that Camel Lights car number 42 because they started 7th and they really had to work their way up. So I think that's a great performance for that program.
Yes, indeed. I thought we were going to see team cars running nose to tail there, but I don't think that
no, but what it did was,
but here you see Hurley
and that's
Haywood.
where that torque really came in handy. That Lights car tried to be nice to get out of the way to let everybody through, but it slowed everybody up. And I think we certainly had a display there of torque being an advantage, but where then that horsepower was able to kick in at the top end.
So Chip Robinson, with the help of his turbocharged Porsche, was able to recover and get up to speed. Whoa, and Hurley Haywood overcooked it a little bit as he came out of that turn. You see the time remaining.
Yes, but I think he's probably maybe lost about a half a second there, but there's traffic ahead of them, and so it's going to definitely come into play.
Oh, and Haywood comes alongside once again, trying to out, and now to the inside.
He got into the marbles. He got into the marbles, but he was able to save it.
Chip Robinson got onto the marbles. That's the bits of tire wear and torn up pavement, and he lost traction, couldn't steer his car. The only thing he could do was slow it down and watch as Hurley Haywood went by.
But it was some great driving that he did not tag that wall.
Here it is again.
Actually, he got in on the inside. It wasn't really, I don't think, the marbles as much as there was no traction there. The marbles are going to the outside. He lost traction on the inside and then got into the marbles when he was out on the outside.
Was he trying to counter a move by Hurley? It looked like Hurley was trying to try the outside pass through that gray area, and Chip took the bait, if you will, and drove into it to block.
Hurley actually took the classic line. You have to drift out a little bit to be able to cut across, but I think Chip was trying to protect that inside line, and he just protected it too much.
Well, here we go as Chip Robinson overcooks it a little bit again, trying to get that turbo Porsche spooled up, trying to get up onto the fenders of Hurley Haywood. Haywood, the Jaguar, that was a part of that great last lap battle last year, will have another chance at racing immortality, another chance to get to victory lane. This time he holds the lead. Last year Brian Redmond took it with a couple of 100 yards to go and then lost it in the final hairpin. Can Hurley Haywood hold off his old teammate Chip Robinson with probably 2 laps remaining, no more in this race?
There's 2 laps to go and it is not over yet.
Well, we said it could happen, Lynn. Last year, we saw one of the greatest finishes ever. The separation, 0.393 seconds, 5th closest in IMSA history. We may see another one of those finishes today. In fact, I'm about ready to guarantee it.
You saw that fishtail of Chip coming out, and he was trying extra hard, I think, to make up for that boost lag that he has in the turbo. It got him a little bit sideways, and it might have hurt him a little bit.
Go ahead, Lynn. This should be the last lap. This should be it. Chip Robinson has one chance to get Hurley Haywood. There is turn 2, and Haywood opens a substantial lead as Robinson is sliding all over the racetrack.
All over the track. I mean, he's just trying. We can't say whether the tires are gone or whatever because it's probably everybody. It's slick out there, but he is trying everything he can.
And Hurley Haywood quickly opens up about a 6-car lead as Chip Robinson does everything in his power to close that gap. Keep in mind that the Jaguar has the torque. It will come off the turn faster, but Chip Robinson has that turbo power at his command. Hurley Haywood has got to get off that last turn. Here is turn 9. He'll approach the hairpin, turn 10, and then he has got to get the hammer down, keep it down, and make sure that he doesn't let Chip Robinson get up too close behind.
But
Here
that
comes
checkered
Robinson.
flag is in the middle of the straightaway and not at the end, and so there's no turbo power that's going to get there.
And so Hurley Haywood finishes the next to last race for the Bob Tulia's Group 44 Jaguar team with a victory in Palm Beach.
Incredible.
Another dramatic finish. And a jubilant Jaguar crew, and they have every reason to be happy. Meanwhile, down the road, where did we see this before? How about Riverside, California, where the Lowenbrow Porsche team of Holbert Racing gave a tremendous fight, but were caught by the Jaguar with just a few laps to go. Here today, once again, Jaguar emerges triumphant, Lynn.
That's a happy driver. I'm sure those arms are a little tired right now, but they've got enough strength out there just to wave.
Hurley Haywood has driven with so many of the great drivers. There, Chip Robinson pulls alongside.
Maybe not as dramatic as at the end of Indy with the father-son of the Al Unsers, junior and senior, but there was definitely some recognition there.
But a nice gesture there between sportsmen. As two former teammates have fought it out to the very end, and the arm waves out the window of the pristine green and white Jaguar. Hurley Haywood and John Morton have brought it home. We'll be back to meet them right after this. See the happy crew of Group 44 Jaguar. They held on, and Hurley Haywood teamed with John Morton to score a dramatic victory. Perhaps not as dramatic as last year, but I think all things considered, including the fact that this was the team that really took the biggest beating last year, one of 3 cars that had a shot at the victory, and they finished third. This year, Hurley Haywood and John Morton have been able to bring it all the way home. While we watch the victory lap, Derek Daly is standing by with the losing team, if we could call them that. Go ahead, Derek.
Okay, Chip, bitter disappointment, but however, second place still a very good try. What happened in the closing laps?
Well, where Hurley got by me, we came up on a slower car, and my brakes have been fading the whole time, and I practically had no pedal. I had to pump them a lot. We came up to a section where I didn't have time to pump them. I tried to go by the slower car on one side. Hurley went by on the other side. I saw him. I had to keep going, and I missed the corner and went straight. And then he just got by.
After he got by, the torque of the Jaguar being a normally aspirated car, was that going to be the difference between whether you could get by him and not again?
Well, I'll tell you, he certainly had it much easier coming out of all the tight corners. You know, with the turbo lag, it takes 2 seconds to get up, you know, on boost. And he has power instantly, and he was just right out of the corners, and I think that was the difference.
That was the difference. Chip Robinson, second place today.
A fantastic effort by Chip Robinson. Really no reason to feel bad. Assuming we can get the Jaguar crew to stop their celebrations long enough for us to get a chance to talk with them, we'll be back to talk with the winners of today's race in a moment. Is just about finished, but I'm sure the victory celebrations will go on for a number of hours tonight here in Palm Beach. Hurley Haywood and John Morton have brought it home to victory here in the 3-hour Camel Grand Prix of Palm Beach. We should point out also that in the Camel Lights class, Howard Cherry and Chip Meade brought that race home. Gary Lee is standing by now with Hurley Haywood.
By golly, Hurley, we didn't think we'd have a chance to talk to you because of that extra lap with all the extra passengers. Congratulations.
I'm telling you, I'm really thrilled. You know, this is the last race. This is the last race for me with Jaguar, and I really wanted to win this, and we really ran a great race. John drove good in that, and I was against Chip, and Bob's been giving me a hard time about beating Chip ever since Chip left us. So I just wanted to prove that age will beat youth any old day.
Tell us about that pass. What happened?
Well, we got kind of blocked by a slow car, and I took one route. I took the inside route, and he went on the outside and got into the gravels a little bit, and that was all I needed. I think it was AJ's car got in the way down here in the braking. We didn't have any brakes on this thing. We had to pump them real bad, and AJ got in the way down there, and Chip got by me on the inside, so it's catch up.
There it is. What a way to go out with a big victory for Hurley Haywood.
Yes, indeed. Since Hurley will not drive with the Jaguar at West Palm Beach, this closes a great chapter in a great career for Hurley Haywood. Lynn, your thoughts on today's race?
Well, I think that it was an exciting race. The drama was there. I think that it was a tragedy there with the Corvette. I'm still feeling sick inside about that. Happy for what happened, but it's an exciting event, and hope we'll be back again next year.
2 years, 2 great races here at West Palm Beach. Don't forget, coming up later on tonight, more great racing action on ESPN. The Budweiser 400 Winston Cup stock car race from Riverside, California, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Larry Newber and special guest color commentator Richard Petty. You won't want to miss that. Don't forget our next race, the IMSA Camel Continental from Watkins Glen, New York. We'll be live from Watkins Glen on July 5th. At 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Our congratulations go out once again to the Jaguar crew for another great race. On behalf of all of us here at ESPN, especially Lynn St. James, Gary Lee, and Derek Daly for working in the pits today. I'm Bob Barsha. We hope you've enjoyed our coverage of the IMSA Camel GT 3-hour Grand Prix from beautiful West Palm Beach, Florida. We'll see you at Watkins Glen in a couple of weeks. So long from Florida.